Good evening and welcome to the May 13th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law due to the novel coronavirus, this public meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals is physically closed in order to avoid group congregation. There are alternative public access measures in place. The meeting is being televised via Falmouth Community Television, as is customary. And as is customary these days, real-time public comment can be addressed to the Zoning Board of Appeals utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. This application allows users to view the meeting in real time and send a question or comment to the chair. For the Zoom login instructions and more on public participation in a minute or two, you can go to www.falmouthma.gov/ZBA. From there is a link to the Zoom virtual meeting software. And when the appropriate time comes, I'll discuss public comments some more. I'll introduce the board at this time. My name is TJ Hurry. I'm the chair of the board. Ken Foreman is the board's vice chair. Bob Dugan is the board's clerk. Ed Van Kuren is a full voting member. Scott Zielinski is a full voting member as well. Mary Berry is an associate member, and James Morse is an associate member. Also with us tonight is Noreen Stockman, who is the zoning administrator, Ashley DeMello, who is the recording secretary for the night. And as always, I'd just like to acknowledge Justin Shanahan from the Falmouth IT department, who is assisting us with our IT efforts, and of course our friends at FCTV who are helping us broadcast live. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the zoning bylaws for the town, and we consider requests for special permits, variances, and appeals as provided in the bylaws, which have been approved by town meeting and the Attorney General's office for the Commonwealth. All decisions the board makes are made through the public hearing process. The board's goal is to hear testimony from the applicant and from the public, and also to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement of the hearing and then present any pertinent information from the file, such as referrals from town departments and summarizing correspondences to the board. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, and time may be extended by vote of the board. The board will then question the applicant, and the public will be invited to comment as well. And again, for public comment, we are allowing public comment through the Zoom virtual meeting software. That address is available at www.falmouthma.gov/ZBA. And again, if you go to that webpage, there is a link for the Zoom software. When it comes appropriate during the night for public comment, we will ask you to please click the raised hand icon within the Zoom software. At that point, we will elevate you. We will ask you to please provide your name, address, and whatever question, comment, or concern regarding the project that you may have. Public comment should be only directed at the project itself, and we ask you to please refrain from making any personal or derogatory statements. Public comment can include an opinion in favor or in opposition, or it might just simply be a question about the nature of the project. The chair will limit discussion in the interest of time in the event that comments become repetitive. And as for closing or continuing a hearing, when the board is satisfied that enough information has been presented by testimony and in the file to make a decision by motion and vote of the board, the hearing will be closed. And the alternative, the board may continue the hearing to a future date and time. After the hearing is closed, no more testimony may be taken. And regarding board discussion and decisions, the board may then further discuss the project among ourselves, and make a motion to deny or approve would be made and voted upon. The motion will include a summary of key findings and conditions. An affirmative vote of 4 members, which is a supermajority, is required for approvals of motions on special permits, variances, and appeals. A split vote, such as a 3-2 vote, would be a failure to carry and would result in denial of the project. Under Massachusetts general law, if a special permit is denied, the applicant cannot return to the board for 2 years unless the project is substantially different. So turning to our agenda for the night, first we have public comment, followed by 2 continuations, 1 new public hearing, and we do have a few items on our open meeting agenda. So first up tonight is public comment. I should stress, especially with the amount of people in attendance, that this public comment period is meant for anything not on the agenda. So again, if you're here to comment on anything before the board tonight, please wait for us to open that hearing and then wait for the appropriate public meeting portion. So if anyone out there does have public comment, go ahead and click the raised hand icon. And again, this is for something that is not on the agenda. And I'll give it a minute to see if anyone pops up. All right, not seeing anyone for public comment. Moving on to our continuations.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take one of the items out of order. I'd make a motion to take application 55-20, RLBE LLC, Rebecca Ann Lane first. Our peer review consultants are here this evening, and they have limited time. So it's best that we go forward with that one.
So moved.
Good. All right. So motion
Second.
to take RLBE out of order made by Bob, and I'll give the second to Scott. Roll call vote, everyone. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Ken?
And Foreman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
Thank you, Mary. James?
James Morse, aye.
Thank you, James. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. And Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. So the motion passes unanimously. We will be taking application 55-20 RLBE LLC, Rebecca Ann Lane, Lot 2 in East Falmouth, out of order, meaning we'll be taking it up first. And if Mr. Marioni could be elevated, please. And Mr. Marioni, if you're out there, if you could click the raised hand icon, that'll help us, or help Justin elevate you.
And just question to the administrator, which ones are our peer consultants? They'll need to be elevated.
Sure. So we have Maura Kamosi. I'm probably mispronouncing her name.
And looks like Jim Thorne is the other.
Yes. Yep. He's with
Fantastic.
Green International. Yeah.
All right.
And could you elevate Mike Borselli also, please?
And Mr. Berselli, if you're out there, if you can hit the raised hand icon just to help out Justin. Brady Bunch squares are filling up quick here. All right, gang's all here. All right, Mr. Maroney, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We've been working with the peer review consultant and members of our team, and we think we've narrowed the issues down to a few items. The waivers, a few open items that we need to do some details on that the peer review consultant has recently requested from our recent conversation, and some items that we gave explanations in our comments on that they're deferring to the board to make the decision on because they're beyond their scope. So I guess in the interest of saving everybody time, I'll turn it back to the board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Marioni. Noreen, do you think it'd be appropriate to turn it over to our peer engineers to review at this time?
Sure. Or do you want to start with Maura? Camosi? Because I think she might be quicker with the septic. It's up to you.
Sure. Ms. Camosi, well, first, welcome, and are we pronouncing your last name correctly?
Almost. Kamasi.
Kamasi, okay.
Yeah. Hello. I was asked to, my name is Mara Kamasi. Work as a development consultant. And I was asked by the board to do a review regarding financial feasibility regarding the septic system upgrade to a nitrogen removing system. And I was unable to complete the review because I do not know. I had asked for information regarding how much of an increase it would be for that upgraded or a different type of septic system. And so that information I do not have. So until I have that information, then I will be able to complete the review.
Okay, and that's information that the applicant can provide to you?
I'm not sure who can provide accurate information regarding that. It could be the applicant or it could be an engineer who works on septic systems. I leave that to the board to decide how to get that information, but somehow I need the information.
I was hoping we could get an outside engineering consultant to chime in on that. I think this was my request, was to get the cost of adding denitrification because they're in a pretty sensitive area.
So just to answer that question for you quickly, Ken, we did reach out to Green and they were willing to have one of their consultants help us with that, but the cost was substantially more than the board would be able to consider for a consultant.
I'm a little confused.
So am I.
So we have Green International is doing the peer engineering. And so I had sent an inquiry to them as to whether they could help us with this. And they had a consultant that works for them that they felt could do this work. But the fee that was requested was substantially more than you would typically pay for a consultant review.
So it was
So what is this?
cost prohibitive?
What is the solution? I mean, my understanding is that under 40B that we're allowed to ask for outside consultants to chime in on stuff. And
Right.
I don't recall seeing any. I mean, obviously there's some. Yeah, if they were charging $100,000 or something, that would be.
No, I think it was in the neighborhood of 10 though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's beyond. I mean, what are they trying to do? Design it? All we want is an opinion on cost. It shouldn't cost that much.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's got to be another source of information we can get.
May I make a comment, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Maroney.
On the 213 North Falmouth Highway project, we put it out to, I think it was the same peer review consultant. And they came back with the cost, what the cost increase was going to be in a 3-page report. And now this one's costing more money, this is $1,000, and we got to provide the cost. Something not adding up to it.
I'm not an expert on septic systems or a contractor, so I wouldn't know where to get the cost. I mean, usually it's provided. In the past, when I worked with the Falmouth board, it was provided by the developer.
Chairman, may I ask a question?
Go ahead, Scott.
Who can answer this? I don't know, but when was this requested?
This was requested.
No. I remember when Ken requested it. When was the initial request out to the consultant? When was that made?
So we had like I said, we have the contract with the peer engineering firm, and where they were already employed with us, I thought it might be easiest for them to help with that part. And now
Right.
I'm not sure when they were turning to a different consultant, if maybe that other consultant misunderstood exactly what we were looking for. But again, the quote that came back to us was somewhere in the $10,000 range, which sounded very much out of line with what you would be, I guess, expecting for the peers' comment on this issue.
What would be the respectable or acceptable time limit to get a second or third opinion?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if
One person in the world that does this.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe our consultant from Green can touch on this at all. I don't have a lot of expertise in this area, so I do apologize.
No worries. Mr. Thorne, can you offer us anything?
So unfortunately, I wasn't involved in the correspondence with the consultant engineer for pricing this. It was Adele Shaheen, who's currently on vacation right now. So I'm kind of covering for him. So I can't speak onto it right now. I apologize.
No worries. Thank you,
Looking
Mr.
for a
Thorne.
continuance on this? I mean, we're starting off with,
Let me add something else to this, please, before you.
can I hear from the chairman, sir, please?
Sorry, Scott, what's that?
I just want to know, we're starting off in the hole here with information we already don't have. Are we about ready to ask for a continuance to get this information?
Yeah, let's hear from Mr. Marioni real quick and see if there was anything else expected to cover tonight before we do move for a continuance.
Thank you. If you look at the bylaw itself and see the purpose, and then the developments that are required to file under it, a subdivision greater than 5 lots or greater than 5 acres. We're neither of those. Also, we're in a stabilization area. Stabilization area means that there are areas designated as stabilization areas shall allow higher nitrogen loading than high quality areas in those loading. In addition, we've done a great job of keeping all of our post-development runoff on site. We've exceeded the state's requirements for total suspended solids by almost double. And we're capturing all our runoff, we're treating it, and we're infiltrating. And I know that's not totally what this is about, but it certainly has a lot to contribute to it. And we're not even a site that should be targeted for this because of our size and scope. So I think Mr. Foreman's comment last time, valid comment, was that if it's a minor cost, why not make us do it? But I don't understand why we're paying a peer review consultant. We have to give them the cost. I mean, I could have done that without paying a peer review consultant. But anyway, I think we're entitled to the waiver anyway. I think we're being a good steward to the environment with the way this site has been engineered, and I would like to hear the peer review, Green peer review consultant's opinion on that, how this affects what I just said. Thank you.
Well, Ken, since you made the request, would you like to?
Well, all I can say is there are non-proprietary systems out there that do this. George Hoyfelder, the county health commissioner, has been pioneering this with a layer cake system to denitrify. The town is on the verge of spending literally hundreds of millions of dollars to build sewers to clean up the wastewater problem. It's a major local concern. Local concerns are one of the things that certainly as under 40B we're entitled to consider. And the number of units, in my view, makes this a project that we ought to be imposing some requirements on with respect to wastewater cleanups. When every person in those buildings is going to generate about 9 pounds a year of nitrogen that's going to go into the groundwater. And this is why we have this problem to begin with. So, it's unfathomable to me that we can't get an answer. There are lots of engineering firms out there that do this. I mean, to get idea of the cost should, I agree, should not cost $10,000. We're not asking them to design this system. We're asking them to give us an estimate of what it would cost.
Do you think I might be able to reach out to George, Ken?
I think
Some
reaching out to
information?
George would be an excellent
Okay. And then we
first
could-
step. You know,
yeah.
if nothing else, he can point you in the right direction.
Okay, and then maybe we could circle back with information to Maura so that she can properly weigh the financial impact.
Right.
Sounds good.
Because, you know, he already, I mean, you've got to build a system regardless. So we're just talking about adding to an existing system to achieve this nitrogen removal. And it certainly adds some cost, but I'm not sure it would make the project unaffordable, and that's the criteria.
Very good.
Mr. Marioni, when you submit a plan for a project and you quote pricing, they send you the prices for what it is to buy the denitrifying system, correct?
I would say that's a very correct statement.
And then you engage a contractor that's going to install it to give you a price, and he may do the same thing because he's going to shop his prices and his time and labor and materials, correct?
I assume.
So we shouldn't have a problem coming up with a price that's on paper.
I can come up with a price, but you don't want my price. You want it from a peer review consultant.
We want a peer review consultant to agree with your price. That's correct.
That's not what they said last time. It's not how it was handled at 213 North Falmouth Highway either. So that's, you can understand my confusion in that, Mr. Johnson.
Not necessarily to agree, but to confirm that that's the
Correct.
best we can do. But I think the idea of going to George maybe to get some advice, or the Cape Cod Commission, you know, there are plenty of people out there that have expertise. I mean, Mike Borselli, you probably designed some systems like this.
Permission to speak, Mr. Chairman?
Go right ahead, Mr. Barcelli.
Typically, when you do a cost estimate for any construction site work, you don't rely on an engineer to come up with a cost. You get a contractor that's knowledgeable in all the rates, fees, hours necessary to install the system. A viable, reputable, licensed septic installer could provide this cost estimate. And then they also know what the delta would be to retrofit the same system with some additional enhanced treatment, whatever that one may be that's approved by DEP. So in my experience, engineers make the worst cost estimators for construction. If you want high prices, go to an engineer to get the number. And don't forget, there's some very real costs associated. In addition to purchasing the equipment, installing it, there's a significant power expense. There's maintenance agreements, operations and maintenance. There's
And
testing.
that's in perpetuity, right, Mike?
Yeah, so all those costs get passed on to the unit owners. So those are real costs in addition to the installation. So the numbers are attainable. And it's a significant added cost.
Yeah, although again, the layer cake system that Heufelder designed is passive, does not require, you know, anything more than putting wood chips below the leach field.
Well, I think you're simplifying it, but you know, there's site limitations for those systems too. It might not.
That's possible. That's entirely possible.
Right. So I mean, you've heard them all: Fast, BioClear, Singular. There's several DEP approved. The layer cake is also one, yes. So, you know, the cost is something that is best obtained from a viable, reputable installer, in my opinion.
Commissioner had something. May I speak for a second, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Maroney.
Yeah, the layer cake system, we looked into that on North Falmouth Highway. That was a pilot system that was limited to single-family homes, if I remember correctly. That's number one. Number two, when we did price it out last time, it came out about 60 to 70% more than the cost of it. If this is a conventional system, we deliberately kept this under 2,000 gallons a day, so we didn't have to pressure dose it. So if the cost is 50 to 60% more, we're estimating the cost to build a system we designed at about $40,000 to $45,000. So it adds another $20,000 to $30,000 in cost. And with lumber costs and everything else these days, we're trying to keep our costs down, not go bring them up. And then our site, we don't feel qualified or
All right.
required site.
Mr. Chairman, I would just be a little wary of making comparisons to other sites when we're talking about this site.
That's
I just
true.
don't want to get convoluted. I mean, it seems like the request was made by Mr. Foreman last time. It seems like an acceptable request. I understand that the first estimate came back high. The administrator can just go forward and try to, find somebody else. And then if Maura Camosi is available and we have the proper information from her, that can be supplied. But I don't think we need to stay on this any longer. I would like to hear from the peer engineer on the rest of the aspects of the project.
Thank you for being half a step in front of me on that, Bob. So yeah, I'd like to keep the conversation moving because we do have a busy schedule for the night. So Noreen, you can reach out and
Right, and
hopefully
follow
we'll
up
have
with
them.
more on our next date. Yeah.
All right, very good. So next we can hear from, is it Mr. Thorne about the,
Yes.
all
Are you
right,
all set with Maura Camosi?
we are at that.
Okay, thank you.
For your time tonight.
Thank you.
So we have narrowed the comments down a lot since over the past few reviews. There are some that we are requesting board approval because it's beyond our scope or our jurisdiction, which involve waivers and there's some topics about the town soil and erosion sediment control list. There's site layout and existing condition requirements per the zoning board, which they've met to the maximum extent practical, but since they fully haven't met them, we just wanted to, make the board aware. There is some test pit information. Their test pits only went 11 feet deep, and their infiltration BMPs are 8 feet deep, which has 3-foot separation, and the requirement is 4-foot separation without a mounding analysis. But they used USGS boring data from another site to locate groundwater, which we feel is acceptable because the other site was at the same similar elevation, and it seems like there was no evidence of groundwater. So that was another issue that we wanted to bring up to the board. And then the rest of our comments were very minor comments to do with their plans, just additional details and additional notes and call outs, making sure any of the water services are sleeved if they cross the sewer pipes, and to add details confirming that, and show all water connections and provide details with the water connections. And that's pretty much the summary of the remaining open comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thorne. So we'll turn it to board questions. If anyone has questions for Mr. Thorne in the peer review, anyone? All right, not seeing anyone. All right, Mr. Marioni or Mr. Barcelli, any comments regarding the peer review?
I only have this to say. I think Mr. Thorne summarized it. There's a handful of minor edits that we just learned about very recently. they're easy to accomplish, simple fixes. And I think once they're basically a couple labels on some things, one minor detail about sleeving of a water service. So I think we're basically there. I mean, they're a formality for these final little edits. So I think we've satisfied the peer review. We also had a consultant on the drainage who did a great job designing the drainage to the standards that are necessary. He's a specialized consultant in stormwater, and his report, I think, was approved by the peer review engineer as well.
Very good. Mr. Marioni, anything?
No, I guess I'd like to go through the waivers if we could, to eliminate the ones that we can, to narrow this scope as much as we can tonight. If that's acceptable to the board.
So what are you proposing? Going waiver by waiver to determine whether the board will?
Well, I think that's generally how you handle them, but I'll do whatever, however you choose. I think we really need to discuss each one because they're all separate and apart from each other. There aren't that many. The biggest one, of course, is the waiver from the Coastal Pond Overlay District. There are half a dozen others that are fairly simple and routine, I think.
All right. Well, I would say any board waiver of the Coastal Pond Overlay District is heavily dependent upon the results of the Ken Foreman's request about the septic, right?
I guess I would agree with that at this point. I concede to it. I guess I don't agree with it, but I concede to it. And if I had known it, I certainly could have got a couple of prices from contractors and provided them. I was only asked to provide a cost of what the system was estimated to cost us now.
Understood. All right. I don't know, how would the board feel at this point going through the waivers?
Well, usually our procedure on the waivers is once we get more to a decision point, we have a full discussion with the waivers. But if Mr. Marijuana wants to list the waivers just so that everyone out there is aware what the current waivers are, you could do that.
Sure. Do you want to do that, Mr. Marioni?
I will, yes. We have a waiver from 240, 19A, the zoning bylaw, which only allows a single home on the lot. Requesting a waiver so we can build this 10-unit project. We also requested 64B, but I don't think we need that waiver because the peer review consultant Green informed us that we needed a waiver from 240 127B, which we requested, which requires 20-foot setback from rear and side for two-family buildings. So we're requesting a waiver from that. 172, the town code requires registering annually at the Board of Health for occupancy limits. Where we're being monitored by Mass Housing, we ask for a waiver from that requirement. 240 129C requires 65% open space. We're asking for a waiver because we have 57.5% open space. And 240 11E required flagging trees 4 inches or larger in areas near wetlands, and we're asking for a waiver because the site, there are no wetlands in the site, pretty much going to be clear cut, with the exception of a couple of feet around the perimeter. Those are the waivers we're requesting, and of course the 240-97 for the overlay district.
So I just have one question, Mr. Marioni, and that's on 240 11E, which is the 4 inches or larger trees. So are you expecting to use plantings smaller than 4 inches?
No, this is existing planting. to mark existing plantings.
Or just on the marking of the plantings to see what would be,
Right.
what would be kept.
Right, it's site, it's under site design, 111, I may have said 11, 111E says reduce removal of trees with 4-inch trunk diameter or larger and reduce the area of wetland vegetation displaced. And it, of course, what leads into that is all new building construction or other site alterations to provide adequate access and so on. And then including common drive, egress points, grading, and elements of development could not be reasonably altered to reduce removal of trees to 4-inch or less, 4-inch trunk diameter or larger, and reduce the area of wetland vegetation displaced. There's no wetlands, and I'm not even sure there are any trees over 4 inches out there, but you've seen the site plans, pretty much everything in this middle of that site coming down.
Anything else, Bob?
No, not right now.
All right. Any follow-up questions from any board members?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, I have a question for the administrator.
Sure, go right ahead.
Noreen, has there been any resolution to the demo permit problem that's been going on and on and on? Where are we with that? I don't see it in the file.
Oh, that's the next property that you were asking about. That's this is Rebecca Ann Lane that we're working on now, and then the next case is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
My bad.
No worries, Scott. We'll address that during the next hearing.
Yeah.
Anything for Rebecca Ann though?
No, I'm good with that.
All right. Anything from anyone else? Oh, Mary, I see you there.
I just have one question, which is, it's actually in the green response, but it has to do with the handicap issues and the fact that the only access to the units are by stairs.
Sure. Mr. Maroney, can you comment on that?
That's true. That's all we're required to do. Unless we are required to accommodate anybody that needs more than that, whatever their needs might be. But we're not required to put ramps in the buildings if people don't need ramps.
So I guess my question would be, how could somebody, you're saying that they can easily be made handicap accessible upon request. How is that going to be accomplished?
By putting a ramp in. If somebody needed a ramp, we could put one in.
So I guess just as a follow-up, if somebody did need a ramp, what is the amount of space you're required for the angle of the ramp? Is there enough space there?
We'd find it depending on what unit it is. I can't answer it, but an answer would not apply to every unit.
So
Depends on
would
how
we
they-
be getting that kind of information?
No,
I would suggest that that would be something I would be looking for, and how the interiors would be designed that way too.
well, as we said in the application, the interiors have 2/8 doors. All the units are one floor. They all have a bedroom on that one floor and a bathroom they all have a bedroom that has a 2/8 door and a bathroom that has a 2/8 door. Anyone that needs grab bars, any other accommodations will accommodate. But it just doesn't make sense to put ramps in when someone doesn't need a ramp.
So I guess my question is if somebody did need a ramp, since all the buildings are designed exterior pretty much the same, you know, when you're looking at the layout, they all have the same frontage, the same space, the same distance to parking. My question was, if you did have to do that, do you have the space for it? How would a ramp actually be put on one of those units?
Mr. Chairman, I could probably answer that question if you'd allow me to share my screen.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Baselli.
Thank you.
That'd be great, thanks.
As of right now, there's designation Each of these duplexes has a small set of stairs and a common porch. So for instance, let's just say that unit 5B would be a candidate. You could modify this parking so it would be a handicapped space so that you could create the necessary striping in the dimensions of the parking spot. So let's use this one as an example. If unit 3B needed a ramp, the ramp could be connected to the porch and the ramp could run laterally down. The ramp steepness is 12:1, and that's achievable in this location. Same with unit 4A. Similarly, you could widen the sidewalk. You could put the ramp so you could easily retrofit either of these handicap accessible from grade to the unit, just as an example. And similarly, on any of these, you could have a ramp run laterally off the porch.
Thank you.
So how would they be visitable if you don't have a ramp?
They're not visitable. We say clearly in our application that the units have visitable features and can be made handicap accessible upon request.
So the visitable features are those that are within the unit, but they couldn't get into the unit without having a ramp?
Yes. Exactly. Why would they need a
Well,
ramp?
I think that kind of speaks for itself in the fact that they're not visitable unless there's a ramp out there, and you're saying that the interiors are.
I asked Noreen to weigh in on this. We just had a big meeting on this last Friday where the building inspector weighed in on what our requirements are. And we're not required to put wheelchair ramps in. There's a lot of things we're not required to do that we are doing.
Right. So I think what the board is specifically asking here is that while you may not have a resident who, say, is confined to a wheelchair, that I think Ms. Berry is asking if somebody chooses to visit the unit and they are handicapped, can they get in?
So Mr. Marioni, you just said that there's a lot of things that you aren't required to do that you are actually doing. So what are those items?
Well, we're not required to have a 2-8 door on a bedroom on the first floor. We're not required to have a first floor bedroom. We are in a handicap unit, but we're doing it in every unit to help accommodate anyone that might have any needs. And there's a recent project that we did where we had 5 or 6 handicapped people living in the place. None of them needed a wheelchair, but they all needed special accommodation. We even had one person who, there was an organization from Fall River that came out and went in with our permission, of course, went in, ripped out the shower. Ripped out the bathtub, put in a handicapped shower, took out the toilet, put in a raised toilet, added more grab bars, did a whole bunch of other improvements to the property.
So my question is related to this project, just so we don't get on other projects.
Okay.
So you said that there's a lot of things you aren't required to do with this project that you have decided to do. So I just want to know what those items are, since you made this statement, just so we know, where you've kind of gone overboard where you didn't need to.
2-8 doors on a bed, on a bathroom and a bedroom. We're not required to do that. We did.
And then finally, I'd like to hear from Green International Affiliates on their why they put this in and what they meant and what kinds of things they might recommend to us.
Thank you, Mary. Mr. Thorne, could you elaborate?
Yeah. So I think we kind of had the same idea that Mary was saying, that the interior of the buildings were made handicap accessible, but it was not handicap accessible to get in the building. that they had to use stairs. So that's why we wanted to bring it to the board's attention, to let them know that it's not quite handicap adaptable. But like Mike said, it is possible to make it handicap adaptable. You can add something from the sidewalk up to the porch if needed. But we did not see any details or any kind of drawings or anything like that to see, how that would work exactly. So that's why we made the comment. Just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of everything.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thorne. And just checking in with everyone, did Mr. Thorne's comments come in very slowly, or was that just my connection? I mean, I heard him, I followed it, I understood it.
It was like the
Just-
school teacher on Peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little distorted audio as well.
All right. I was following what you were saying, Mr. Thorne. I just didn't know if it was my connection or someone else's, because I've had a history the last couple of weeks of having a weak internet signal. So that's all. But everyone understood, Mr. Thorne? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to? Okay.
No, I think we got it. Thank you. All right. Anything else from the board at the moment?
I'm just wondering if there's a conceptual landscape plan. I'm looking for it. I haven't found it. I'm not saying it's not there. I just haven't found it. That we could go over quickly.
There is, we provided to the peer review consultant. Jim, do you have it there?
I can pull it up. 1 second.
So while he's pulling it up, just so I know, so Mr. Baroni, so when you were listing this stuff before, were the two-way doors the only item that you decided to do? I didn't know if there was something else.
No, I would say that's it. Yeah. Let me just look at see if there's one other thing here.
I only asked because it just seemed by your statement that there was multiple items, so I didn't want to cut you short if there were multiple items.
I'm just checking something else.
Can everyone see my screen?
Sure, we can see it.
Okay, great. So this is the landscape plan that was last sent to us. Also, I don't know if someone else could raise Mark Caulfield. He's also from Green International. I think he raised his hand. He might be able to help out in some
Sure.
questions as well.
Sure, if we could get him elevated, please. Sorry, I didn't know he was a member of your team.
That's okay. But yeah, this is the current landscaping plan that we just received.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess my question is on the western lot line. There's quite a few houses pretty close here. Is there any buffering? There's a stockade fence over parts of that, I think, but not all from the looks of it. And I can't tell from this if there's specific plantings proposed or what.
So there is a plant list down here. And I don't know, Nick, if you want to expand on that.
Sure. There is a fence on the entire property line behind 1, 2, 3, and 4. It goes to the corner and then turns behind building 5. There's been some arborvitae added. We'll probably space them a little better than that for privacy along the left side of building 1. We've added 7 street trees. And there's basic foundation plantings.
So along this western boundary, that's an arborvitae hedge? Is that what?
No, that's a 6-foot fence.
That's just a fence.
Yes.
But does that run all the way from?
Yeah, Jim, can you expand that a little bit so you can see it a little clearer?
I think this is the fence line here that goes along the property line, start line. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I see this, what looks like a little
It looks like a little clouding of that.
planting line, right?
Right,
Buffer
yeah.
line, but I don't think that's actually there, right?
Well, it might be. There is some stuff there. We're only going to take down what we need to get the patios in. We're not going to go right to the property line if we don't have to. So we just sort of clouded an area, almost like the show. We could leave.
So I guess that's where, with respect to the, flagging trees with greater than 4-inch diameter, if there's any specimen trees, maybe there aren't any, but if there's any that would be worth trying to retain.
I can tell you from my site visits, if I sorry to interrupt,
No, that's okay.
there's nothing. It's all scrub. I didn't see anything of value, to be honest.
Okay.
When I was doing a perk test, it was all overgrown with invasives. I didn't see significant specimen trees that would have been worth saving. I think the fencing and then any landscaping enhancements you can do would be a vast improvement over what's there.
Right. Well, I guess that's the question to me, is whether there's some kind of a hedge that might be nice, because you really are right up against these properties behind there.
Mhm.
Yeah, do you have a distance from the units to that back lot line at the west? Because it looks like you're proposing 8x12 patios, so I'm wondering how much room is going to be between the patio and the fence.
And the patio and the fence will be 6 feet at the closest point. The buildings themselves are 14 feet at the closest points. And as we all know, patios aren't structures. So
Right.
they'll
But I'm
be,
just thinking you wouldn't really be able to plant between the patio and the fence.
no, but you'd be able to plant possibly between the patios, that between each patio of adjacent buildings, where it opens up. There's opportunities to spot plant and enhance with the fence.
Right.
That's
Thank you,
actually a nice
Noreen.
idea in those spaces.
Right. I mean, I'm just looking at, these houses behind, and they're just right there. So any protection we can give them. And see, part of that, it says chain link fence.
Those are existing fences.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just, again, why not have a little additional buffer there? Because right now there's nothing there, right?
All that's there now is the what the neighbors have elected to install themselves. Each neighbor did his own thing. There's some stockade fences. There's some encroaching stockade fences. There's some chain link fences. So the goal here would be to sort of clean up that back line and put one continuous stockade fence, and then supplement it where possible with some landscape.
Mm-hmm. So where that stockade fence, for example, behind lot 3, Michelle O'Connor, encroaches, you're gonna.
I mean, I think the applicant's
What's the plan?
He's gonna. I don't want to speak, Nick. Maybe you correct me, but that fence goes, and the new fence goes along the property line.
Yes, that's correct.
That would have to be taken up with those abutters, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're encroaching. They're not.
Encroachment.
They're not allowed to have the fence there.
Right.
No,
I understand.
understood, but the conversation would have to be had about the new fence.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Same with the chain link fence behind the next lot to the south.
Yeah, off of Schultz there.
Is
I
there
think folks
anything?
just took over the property over time because it wasn't developed.
Right.
Is
Understood.
there anything between the two patios that gives the patio space any privacy? Or are they basically just one board next to the next one?
I think we put a
There's a
fence.
little, yeah, little privacy fence. You
So
sure?
again, these are places where maybe if we could do a little enhancement to the landscape plan, it would be nice.
I agree, Ken. All right. Anything else about this map here before we can take it down?
No, just if there is a privacy fence, it's going to be between them if they could be reflected somewhere because it's not on any of the other plans.
I think it's on the landscape plan that Jim had up earlier. In between, you can see them, 6-inch privacy fence between patios. There's a note.
Okay,
That's
it's on the
between adjacent patios, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else regarding the maps before we take them down? All right, Mr. Thorne, thank you for providing those. If you could drop the shared screen, that'd be great. Thank you. And Mr. Caulfield, my apologies to have you sitting there, but welcome. You've been elevated. Care to provide any commentary tonight?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Well, Jim's carried the ball pretty good so far. I would just reiterate what Jim said, that everything that we saw on the latest set of site plans is anything that we commented on is relatively minor deal, and it can be easily rectified. And so we're pretty happy with how things have turned out.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Caulfield.
Thank you.
All right, so let's turn it over to public comment. If there is any question, comment, or concern from members of the public out there tonight, go ahead and click the raised hand icon utilizing the Zoom virtual software, and we will elevate you in a moment. All right, again, anyone at all, just click the raised hand icon using the Zoom virtual software, and we can elevate you for public comment. All right, not seeing anyone, so back to the board. Are there any follow-up questions? Anything at all from the board? All right, so we are looking at a continuation, but just expectations for next time. Hopefully we can get an opinion regarding that alternate septic. I know Noreen's gonna work on that. Anything else in terms of cleaning up the plans about, like we talked about tonight? And was there anything major that the board wanted the applicant to address with the peer engineer? Any outstanding items that are need to be further addressed?
Do you want them to consider whether the units could be accessible without stairs? I guess the question here is if the interior is handicapped accessible, but again, if someone cannot get into the unit, it being accessible might not be helpful unless you just intend that the accessibility would be in place if somebody that's living there needs it.
Thank you, Noreen. I know logically it doesn't make quite sense. So thank you, Mr. Thorne, and thank you, Mary, for your comments. But how does the board want to address that?
May I?
Go ahead, Scott.
I think that Mr. Borselli, through testimony, said that they already had the room to lay them out. So if they were built in a fashion that if they had to be added on after the fact by condition, that they were ready to accept that ramp. Isn't that what I understood?
Mr. Verselli, is that what you meant?
Yes, I was demonstrating where ADA compliant ramps could be retrofitted to gain access to the porches in the entrance at, with, a retrofit adapted.
Sure.
Would
that
we
wouldn't
need a
come-
design of that, Mr. Chair?
I think they should at least give a sample of a design, only because in the production plans of these housing units, they all mention that they like these projects to be visitable. And I don't know to the administrator if they've defined that or not. It does sound odd that the interiors are visible, but they aren't on the exterior, even though you could put a ramp in. And, sometimes if you put a ramp in, it could change your parking plan. Maybe they just could put a sample of one so that.
I guess the question might be too, if there is a stairway access, would having a ramp access as well, where you've got typically 2 units together? I'm just playing devil's advocate and saying, okay, you have a handicapped interior, but if somebody wants to visit who doesn't live there, they can get into the unit.
Yeah, that's my question. So you need to show. I know we've run into this on other projects before when we've asked if they're visitable or not.
Or whether instead of stairs, that maybe there could be an extended sort of ramp or sidewalk that somebody could walk up gradually instead of the stairs. And that way, if there was a wheelchair involved, you wouldn't have to separately create that access. I'm not sure.
Mr. Maroney, how about that?
I mean, I don't even, it's not even a requirement to do this.
So do you have a handicap parking space on the plan?
We do. I think we have 2.
So if you have a handicap parking space and somebody's handicapped and they visit, how do they get in?
Well,
They don't.
how would somebody get in anyone's house? I've had people come into my house in a wheelchair. We got them in. And I don't have a handicap ramp.
Is your house under a special permit?
No, it doesn't have a special permit.
Okay.
This is more of a code issue.
Or a safety issue?
I don't see the problem when we're willing to accommodate anyone. And anyone can be accommodated. We have to put the ramp off the back door to get the spacing. If somebody needed a ramp, we'll get them a ramp.
So you've got a handicap space. Why don't you just make that unit a handicap accessible unit?
Well, you mean to put a ramp in that we don't need? Is that what you're suggesting?
If someone doesn't need the ramp, they can still use the ramp to get in, but it's at the handicap space. And then you've settled a point where you've got a handicap accessible unit, you've got a handicap accessible space, and you've got a unit that can be accepted if it's needed.
Oh, how about as a compromise that will designate that unit as a handicap unit and only put the ramp in if somebody needs it.
Well, if you want to designate it a handicap unit, I'm fine with that.
All right,
Sure.
But I would expect that they'd have to have, if you're going to designate it, you're going to have to set it up for a ramp.
No, I don't see any sense to building ramps when there's someone going to live in it that doesn't need a ramp.
If you have just realistically on any project in general, if you have a handicap space and it's assumable that at some point that's going to be used by somebody that has a handicap, could have a wheelchair, but you don't have any way for them to get into the unit unless they call in advance and tell you they need it to be modified for somebody to visit, that just doesn't make sense. And even on a rental basis, if he's using these as rental units anyways, there's a lot of people that have handicaps that would love to get right into a unit, and you've got one that would be set up for it. So it's easily marketable.
They're all set up for it. And if we had 8 people that need wheelchairs, we'll put 8 wheelchair ramps in.
So if you had 8 people in wheelchairs, where would, I think you're just looking at trying to think that this is a big problem for you. It is not a major adjustment. It is not something that is going to be of major cost. It's an easy thing for you to do if you have a development. It's very nice that if a developer says, you know what, I've decided I want to make and designate this unit as a handicap accessible unit, and I'm going to have it all set up in advance. I just think it's nice on the developers, you know, you seem to butt heads a lot on some of the smaller things, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, at least have the discussion with your applicant, because they're the ones that would want to discuss the decision. He may want to do it.
We're discussing it, we're having, and he hasn't said to me, put the ramp in. What he's saying is the costs keep going up. The possible denitrification, lumber going up, now handicap ramp, they want more shrubs. It's a rental project. We don't have that kind of flexibility. We're trying to make affordable housing.
I think it would be appropriate for you to have the discussion with your applicant and let him answer the question.
Sure.
That's
So
all.
let's expect that for next time, Mr. Marioni. You put on the table a very good compromise, but if you could have that discussion with your client and have that prepared for next time, I think that's fair. Noreen, I'll defer to you in terms of a good next date. I know we're getting very busy.
I think I would propose that the board consider adding a meeting to June 10th, only because you have so many cases on other nights, and I think it puts a lot of stress and pressure on the board to have all the regular cases plus try to work on the 40Bs as well.
All right.
I think we could be very quick with the next meeting too, if we have the answers.
I don't think our schedule provides for that, Mr. Maroney. We are jam-packed.
So
For
I'd
the
make a motion that
foreseeable
we
future.
continue to June 10th if
Second,
All right, so motion to continue this hearing to June 10th, made by Ken and seconded by Bob. And the voting members on this project are myself, Ken, Bob, Ed, and Scott. So, Ken.
Oh, sorry. Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. And Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. So the motion passes unanimously. Mr. Maroney, we will see you back here on June 10th.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Mr. Thorne, Mr. Borselli, and Mr. Caulfield, you're still on. Thank you for your time.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, we took Rebecca Ann Lane out of order. So going back to the top of the list, we have application 36-20 Wings Pond LLC, 63 North Falmouth Highway. And we have Mr. Maroney once again for the applicant. Oh, looks like we lost him. Did he drop down back into the attendees list? All right, Mr. Marioni, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, so the voting members on this project are myself, Ken Foreman, Bob Dugan, Ed Van Kuren, and Scott Zelinski. Mr. Marioni, go right ahead.
Well, we've made no progress since the last meeting. I guess we're going to ask for a continuance again. My client is weighing all of his options. He's just frustrated so far by the process, and he's weighing all of his options, and he hasn't really been sharing much with me in the last couple of months. And I'll go right to Mr. Zelinski's issue and Mr. Dugan's issue about the demo permit. I've had the application filled out for months. I'm just waiting from it and we need to check for the $50, and he hasn't been responsive to that either.
All right. So
So what is the reason for the continuance? We haven't received, is this the third continuance and we haven't really gotten any new information at this point? What's the actual reason for the continuance?
No, we haven't got any new information. My clients put the engineers on hold, put me on hold, not spending any more money while he weighs his options. And go ahead.
So he's asking for a continuance in order to weigh his options if he wants to go forward or not?
Actually, I'm the one asking for the continuance. I haven't been able to reach him to ask him what he wanted to do tonight.
So when's the last time
I'm sorry.
you physically
Sorry, Bob.
spoke to the client?
More than 2 months ago.
So okay, so you've had no contact at all in 2 months?
No,
not since our last hearing?
since the last hearing.
Mr. Chairman, would you entertain a motion to deny the request for continuance?
If you could hold off on that for just a second, Scott, because I just want to get a conversation and a few things on record before we do that sort of thing. So, Mr. Marioni, we opened up this hearing on July 9th, 2020. The last substantive testimony we've received regarding this application was November 19th of 2020. On March 25th, we held a hearing. There was no testimony. We're having a hearing tonight, and again, there's nothing substantive. So this item has been on our agenda. I almost said docket, but that it's been on for 10 months. That is beyond a substantial amount of time as far as our agendas go. And we're obviously well beyond the 180 days that's typical for this sort of project. So I really think you're risking the board voting a denial of this project tonight with nothing new on the table. And it's a shame that you haven't had any contact with your client for about 2 months. I really do think you're risking a decision by the board here tonight of a denial. And it's you haven't talked to your client, but I don't know if you need to withdraw and then reapply because of all the substantial changes that are being weighed with all the items that we discussed back in November, I guess. So I don't know. I really do think you're looking at a denial tonight from this board because we haven't received anything since November.
I can't say I blame you.
Anything else from the board?
Well, but before we make the final decision, and I think we're probably looking at a denial. Yeah, I do have a motion. So.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Bob. To Scott's point that you brought, I don't want to forget about you, Scott. The whole issue with the demo permit.
Well, I mean, if we can't have that resolved, that was one of the initial questions that we have yet to have answered. And through that and lack of communication with his own client through testimony, I don't think we have a choice. How long can you continue to kick this can down the road?
It's been 10 months.
Yes, sir.
I think we're looking at a denial too, but just before we handle that, because we've had this issue with the removal and demolition of structures without any permit, I think it would be important for the board to take a vote for building commissioner enforcement for the demo without a permit, for the structures that were demolished and removed for the site. The structures were there when the town did its initial visits to the property, so they're documented. Again, as Mr. Hurry said, this has been on since November. We've been told month after month that, the permit, is in process. Tonight we're told that he still has it, but, he hasn't paid. So I would like to take a vote by the board to ask for enforcement by the building commissioner on the demo without a permit at this address for the structures that had been demoed and removed from the site. And that should include finding out actually who did the removal because we were first told on this project, they did not know why the buildings disappeared. We were then told they didn't know who did any of the work. At a following hearing, we were told they had them demolished. But they would not tell us who, they would not tell us where the demolition was taken to. So I think that's all information the building commissioner should also attain per his enforcement.
All right, so that's a motion, Bob?
Yes.
So moved.
All right, so that was a motion to request enforcement through the building commissioner regarding that issue made by Bob and seconded by Scott. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Let's see, Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
All right. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. And TJ Hurry, aye. So that motion passes unanimously, and I'm sure Noreen will relay the message to the building commissioner. As far as the rest of this project goes, how would the board like to proceed?
Make a motion to deny the project.
Seconded.
All right. So a motion to deny based upon the applicant's inability to proceed.
Can I ask?
Lack of information, right? We don't have enough information to act.
That's true.
Can I
Noreen?
just ask, just the administrator, when we do a denial like this based on the information for tonight, do we have to do it in any specific way, or do we have to draft something up, or can we just vote on the denial based on all the information we found?
I suggest, Mr. Chairman, that the administrator review the record to make sure that everything is included as to the basis of denial, the lack of information, and to put out a very thorough documentation of the procedural history of this project, given that it's going to be a denial.
All
Yes,
said,
absolutely.
James.
I agree. We need to get a draft motion for the denial. We cannot just deny willy-nilly.
Sure. Noreen, how do you feel?
Sure, so that's fine. I guess I would recommend June 3rd, only because May 20th is a week away, and that includes a weekend. So do you want to, where would you leave this? Do you want to leave it open for the review of a draft and final decision on June 3rd?
Yeah, we didn't vote to close.
Yeah, we didn't vote to close yet, so I think that might be best.
Yeah.
And
So
Bob,
why
I'm
don't-
sorry, go ahead, Noreen.
So I guess what we would do is continue it to June 3rd to review a draft and
But will we leave just the record open so there's no more testimony?
right, well, you haven't closed, so you
No,
could-
I know, but I just don't want to show up on the 3rd and then have a,
Just a written record.
yeah.
So we could have a motion to close except
Well,
for any
why
written.
don't you have a motion to request a draft decision?
So moved.
And then you can just,
Or I can't move her motion.
you can close and vote then.
Somebody's got a motion that she can only suggest it.
So then I would make a motion to have the administrator draft a denial decision based on the information that we've received to date, and to include all the information that we've collected since the application has opened.
I'll second Mr. Dugan's motion, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Scott. So the motion was made by Bob and seconded by Scott. Roll call vote, and just making sure I have the right members. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. So that motion passes unanimously. Mr. Maroney, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Sorry about this outcome on this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Up next, that does it for our continuation. So on to the one new public hearing that we have scheduled for the night. It is application 33-21, Falmouth Housing Trust, Inc.
So, Mr. Chairman, could we take a brief break? I just need a little bit of a break, but on top of that, we did have a group of people that did come to the town hall this evening. They didn't realize that this upcoming application is just a Zoom hearing.
Oh,
They
geez.
were going back to their properties and were going to try to log on for the Zoom hearing, but we had to give them an approximate time, and we did give them 8 p.m.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think board members need a break anyway, and we will also take the break to accommodate that. So we will see everyone back here at about 8 o'clock. How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
See everyone soon.
Thank you.
Ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. Bob, I think that was a good idea. There's a few more attendees in the list, so that's good.
Okay.
All right, so if we're all back, we can get underway and get the recording going. All right. Back to the agenda, our new public hearings. We have one item. It's application 33-21, Falmouth Housing Trust, Inc., 55 Lewis Neck Road in East Falmouth. And Bob, whenever you're ready, if you can read that into the record. And I believe we have Attorney Moynihan representing the applicant. Attorney Moynihan, if you could click the raised hand icon, that way Justin can raise you up.
Good to go.
Whenever you're ready, Bob.
So application number 33-21. Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Falmouth Housing Trust, Inc., 200 Main Street, Room 212, P.O. Box 465, Falmouth, Mass., has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B, to construct 3 affordable single-family dwellings. The subject property is 55 Lewis Neck Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For referrals. Some of the memos are mixed in with the referrals, so I may go a little bit out of order.
No
So
worries,
we
Bob.
have a memo from the Zoning Board of Appeals from Peter Johnson Staub, the Assistant Town Manager, regarding 55 Lewis Neck Road comprehensive permit. And this is May 6, 2021. It says this memo provides an overview of the Select Board position regarding the proposed construction of affordable single-family houses at 55 Lewis Neck Road. On February 22nd, 2021, the Select Board, acting as trustees of the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund, voted to award $260,000 to the Falmouth Housing Trust for the construction of 4 single-family houses, all of which were to be deed-restricted affordable. Per the town manager's recommendation, this award of funds was conditioned on completion of roadway improvements detailed in the Planning Board Access Determination, voted 11/10/2020, for the parcel that abuts the FHT, Falmouth Housing Trust property, at 55 Lewis Neck Road. The Planning Board conditions for this abutting parcel provide for the following. 1, Lewis Neck Road paved 16 feet wide, consisting of super elevated roadway 15 feet wide with a 1-foot Cape Cod berm on the east edge of the existing gravel road. And 2, the installation of 3 leaching drainage structures as reviewed on October 22nd, 2020 by the Town of Falmouth Engineering Division. Prior to taking this vote, the Select Board was fully informed of the covenant placed on the FHT property by the Planning Board and received guidance from Town Council. The road has now been paved and the Engineering Department has signed off on the drainage structures. Town Council has provided guidance directly to the ZBA regarding the implications of the covenant for the comprehensive permit, which speaks for itself. In summary, the Select Board is on record supporting 4 single-family houses for this parcel, but has not yet revisited its funding award in light of FHT's decision to reduce the number of houses to 3. Again, that was from the Assistant Town Manager with a carbon copy to Julian Suso, Town Manager, the Select Board, and the Zoning Administrator. From Scott McGann with Health. Health has no issues with the project as engineer has shown compliant Title V septic systems. From Cathal O'Brien with Water Department. The Falmouth Water Department has no further comments. We have an 8-inch main there installed in 2000. So the 3 services should not be an issue. They will just have to follow our normal procedures to connect once they are ready to build. The conservation staff have no additional comments for the above referenced, as it appears to be outside of conservation jurisdiction. The fire department has no additional comments on this project. We are satisfied, and any concerns were taken care of regarding and already in regards to access. From engineering, there are 5 pages of engineering comments. I'm just going to read the ones that are in bold. Regarding access to Lot 1, they defer to Falmouth Fire Rescue as to adequacy of access to Lots 2 and 3 for emergency response. They also defer to Falmouth Fire Rescue as to the adequacy of access via Lewis Neck Road for these 3 proposed houses. Regarding Lot 1, 2, and 3, they recommend the following condition be included or similar in any approval: that upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence per section 99.1, affixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. In addition to posting these numbers on the front of the house, they will also require that there be a posting at the end of the shared driveway indicating access to number 57 and 59. They broke them down that Lot 1 would be 55, Lot 2 would be 59, and Lot 3 would be 57. For grading and drainage, they recommend the following condition be included: all roof areas shall discharge to dry wells or adequately sized stormwater infiltration areas. The proposed grading, foundation elevations, existing tree lines, and limits of clearing do not appear to be shown on the lot site plans. It isn't clear if 240-112 stormwater management will be met. It isn't clear how much of the site will be cleared, and it isn't clear how the proposed lot will be graded or how the proposed houses will sit on the lot. Engineering defers to the zoning board if this information should be added to the plans. The proposed lots are narrow and the work will be in close proximity to the abutting properties to the north and the south. There is no limit of work area shown, and erosion and sediment control details were not included. They recommend the following be included: construction of this project shall follow the town soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions. The document can be found on the engineering division's page of the town's website. Any reference to the Department of Public Works Engineering Division shall be replaced with the Zoning Board of Appeals, who would be the permitting authority for this project. Regarding plan of land, the lotting plan does not indicate monumentation for the property line as typically required. With these small lots with narrow and irregular shapes, we recommend that permanent monuments be required at all angles and intersection points. We also recommend that the easements have monumentation installed to delineate the boundaries of these restricted areas. Regarding the overall site plan, a note on the plan indicates that a 10-foot wide naturally vegetated buffer will be on lots 1 and 3 for screening purposes for abutters to the north. There is a paved drive in this area from the lot to the abutters lot, and based on aerial photographs, there appears to be a clearing and break in the tree line in this area. Are there plans to plant anything to fill in this area with vegetation? We defer to the zoning board if additional screening should be added. Regarding lots 1 through C site plans, there are no details for the proposed dry wells, one of which is proposed under the parking area. This structure should be H20 load rated. There are no setback dimensions on the dry wells. If they are located within 10 feet of a building, the plumbing code may be applicable. The Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook Rules of Groundwater Recharge state that all infiltration structures should be a minimum of 10 feet from property lines. We recommend that setback dimensions be added to the plans. Under general comments, the planning department has indicated that they believe there is not site control for this parcel, and they do not support release of a covenant due to this site not meeting their determination of access policy and a past decision for one residence to be developed for this lot. This area is private and outside of the DPW's jurisdiction. We defer to the zoning board for this matter. The plans do not appear to include all information as required by the Town of Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals Comprehensive Permit Procedural Rules. We note that the following does not appear to be shown. Landscaping improvements per 3.01A. The information required in 3.01D appears to be scattered through the various documentation and not in a tabulation as described in the rules. We defer to the zoning board if additional information would be required. If the zoning board decides to include inspection requirements in any approval, we recommend that they be performed by an outside consultant. Given the size of this project, it is our opinion that an outside peer review is not required. However, we defer to the zoning board on this. The town will provide snow removal in Lewis Neck Road. The town will provide trash pickup at the intersection of the driveways and Lewis Neck Road. Mail delivery should be coordinated with the U.S. Postal Service. And that's signed Scott Schluter, PE. He's the staff engineer with DPW Engineering Division. We have a referral from the Affordable Housing Committee. Following is the referral review from the Affordable Housing Committee, AHC, for the Lewis Neck 40B project, due for submission to the ZBA by May 3rd, 2021. Note, Karen Bissonette, Executive Director of Falmouth Housing Trust, FHT, is a member of the Affordable Housing Committee. After her presentation of this project to the committee, she recused herself while the other members discussed and voted on our comments. The AHC strongly supports this project, which includes 3 single-family homes, each with 3-bedroom and 2 baths. 2 of the homes are aimed for families who earn 80% of the AMI at a proposed cost of $225,000 each, and the 3rd home is aimed for families who earn 100% of the AMI at a proposed cost of $268,000. These are just the sort of community workforce houses that are in short supply in Falmouth. Indeed, many who work in Falmouth cannot afford to live here and drive from off Cape daily. The FHT is a valued local nonprofit developer that has a great track record of creating such desperately needed projects in town. While the usual 40B, only the bare minimum of 25% affordable units, this project is 67% affordable. And the market unit, while it will not count as part of Falmouth's subsidized housing inventory, is also reasonably priced. All 3 homes have a first floor bedroom, and one of the 2 80% AMI homes will be constructed to be visitable. Again, these are features Falmouth greatly needs for disabled individuals as well as for elderly who struggle with stairs. FHT will follow the stretch code and include Energy Star appliances, which will help keep ongoing utility costs at a reasonable level. It would also be desirable if the houses could be oriented for possible future installation of solar panels in case the homeowners wish to save even more on their utilities. Lewis Neck Road has recently been paved and improved all the way to this site. The location is less than 1 mile from Route 28 and about 2 miles from the beach, allowing homeowners convenient access to many services and amenities. The Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund, with approval by the Select Board, has agreed to support this project financially, a step which the AHC applauds. These 3 homes will be an important new addition to Falmouth's housing diversity. And then this is a referral from Carla Ferroni. She's the housing coordinator for the town. I have reviewed the associated documents and have the following comments. As the housing coordinator, I recognize the need for single-family homes in Falmouth. This need has also been documented on page 79 of the housing production plan. Falmouth needs 3-bedroom homes for its workforce, and this project responds to those needs. The location is a good location, and the 3 homes will fit in well with the neighborhood. The design of the homes varies, and that will provide architectural interest and help with developing a sense of community. The developer, Falmouth Housing Trust, is well known in Falmouth and has a solid reputation for well-built single-family homes. They also ensure the homes will be monitored. I support the project as documented. And then this is from Thomas Bott, the town planner. Received April 15th regarding, it's dated actually April 14th, 2021. Regarding Lewis Neck Road, 40B map number 0103001C002C. Lewis Neck, by comparison, is a much narrower version with no existing outlet to Percival Road where private property owners on Carroll Ave own the property that Lewis Neck Road crosses, and where required improvements would need to be made. Residents of Carroll Ave have given no indication that they are willing to permit the improvements to Lewis Neck Road on their property behind their houses. The property was split into two parcels on August 9th, 2011, creating parcel number C2, not a building lot due to access issues. FHT initially applied an A&R plan withdrawn July 9th, 2019. I'm sorry, I think it's a typo. It's drawn July 9th, 2019. A determination of access for one dwelling voted by the planning board November 21st, 2019. A second application from FHT for A&R plan was endorsed to remove the not a buildable lot note on the August 9th, 2011 PILDIS plan by the planning on November 26, 2019. After applicant agreed to enter into a covenant, which is attached, a property restriction that would allow one single-family home on the site. Town Council and the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court have confirmed that a property restriction held by a municipality cannot be overridden by the municipality zoning board when acting on a comprehensive permit under General Laws, Chapter 40B. The covenant is not local zoning. It is an agreement between two parties that cannot be removed unilaterally. I understand that funding approved by FAHF for multiple units is contingent on Lewis Neck Road improvements that include drainage and paving that allows for two-way traffic. In my opinion, until the roadway is improved and the covenant is removed, the property is eligible by mutual agreement, the attached covenant for one dwelling. And again, there is an attachment, and there's a carbon copy sent to the zoning board, town council, and the planning board. And there's also copies again of the covenant from the planning board. And it also shows a copy from the November 21st, 2019, which was regarding the determination of access for one dwelling on parcel C2 Lewis Neck. This is from Tom Bott to Mr. Palmer. And that did say that at its meeting of November 5th, 2019, the planning board voted access to the above referenced parcel is adequate to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic to the proposed use of land abutting thereon and served thereby with the following condition. One Lewis Neck Road from Irene to the subject property, parcel C2, should be cleared of brush for its length from Irene across the frontage of parcel C2 to a width of 18 feet and 13 feet of height. 2, Lewis Neck Road shall have potholes filled in front of the property across the frontage of parcel C2. 3, this decision is not a determination that the applicant has any rights to enter into private property, the rights to enter onto private property for this purpose. And 4, this determination applied to parcel C2 only, and it's not a finding that any other property along Lewis Neck is eligible for a similar determination of access. And then more copies of the covenant details. There are 2 letters with concerns, and there's 1 letter of support. I'll start with the letter of support. This is dated today, May 13th, 2021, and it's from Joan Bates. It says, Dear ZBA members, as a realtor in Falmouth since 2004 and a resident since 2002, as well as a member of the board of the Falmouth Housing Trust, I wish to encourage you to approve the comprehensive permit being requested by our organization for Lewis Neck Road. The lack of affordable housing for young families here on Cape Cod is appalling. The most recent increase in price and scarcity of available housing are accentuating this existing and continuing issue drastically. Having this piece of land available in the classic Cape Cod community with convenience to schools and shopping, as well as our treasured amenities, is very exciting. We have strived to adjust the project to add 3 new single-family houses to attract young families who are eligible, and finally, we hope, able to live in Falmouth. Our plans have gone through a number of adjustments to accommodate the use and satisfy the requirements of typical families. We hope and trust that this project will move ahead smoothly upon approval as the need is truly urgent. Again, signed Joan Bates, Clerk, Falmouth Housing Trust. May 13th from Mike Bowman. He's at 20 Lewis Neck Road. He's concerned about the impact of 3 units on a small lot. No sewer on Lewis Neck Road. How will Title V septic be possible? Question mark. Also have problems with trash pickup. Republic is not picking up trash on Lewis Neck Road, and Republic is the trash hauler for the town. And then this comes from Kathleen J. Mayer. Dear Falmouth Board of Appeals, Planning Board, Select Board, Town Manager, et cetera. Attached, please see our letter concerning the 40B project proposed for Lewis Neck Road. We are very concerned with the process this endeavor has taken, as well as the outcome so far as seen at the Planning and Select Board meetings. We, along with our neighbors, would like to thoroughly understand where this project stands and review a few of the processes that got us here. Please review the attached documents so that we may discuss at the appeals meeting on May 13th. We would appreciate, and in some cases, solid, and in some cases, written answers to our concerns. Thank you for this matter. I'm going to read in at least the letter. May 9th, 2021, this letter is in response to the appeals request for the Falmouth Housing Trust to build 3 affordable houses units on Lewis Neck Road in East Falmouth. We believe that the entire project has been proposed on false pretenses. Per the covenant dated November 9th, 2019, and signed on December 6, 2019 by the Falmouth Planning Board, the property was given a removal of the unbuildable lot status to buildable for 1 house and 1 house only. Please see the attached document marked covenant. Paragraph 6 states, whereas this covenant sets forth the agreement by and between Falmouth Housing Trust and the town of Falmouth and the Falmouth Planning Board with respect to the Falmouth Planning Board's endorsement of the A&R plan and the issuance of a building permit for 1 single-family residence structure on parcel C2. The Planning Board approved the removal of the unbuildable lot for 1 unit, not several. The Planning Board also received a request from the Select Board to support the FHT in this endeavor. The board voted not to endorse the project and forwarded this to the Select Board to forward to the state. However, the Select Board voted to give funds for the project and let the Appeals Board decide whether or not the project should move forward. Please note that the funds were already in the bank account of the FHT. We have the specific questions and concerns as follows. Number 1, FHT claims it has met with the neighbors throughout the process. We challenge this statement as it was not until 2 weeks ago that one neighbor requested seeing the plot plan, and 2 of the FHT members met with a small group of us. 2, FHT spokesperson Karen Bissonette stated at the meeting that the property was not really deemed unbuildable. Please clarify for all of us whether it was or not. We are still confused as to how this process was handled. 3, the stakes are currently in place for the houses, driveways, et cetera, on the lot. It was our understanding that all of this needed to be approved prior to work being completed. 4, FHT claimed multiple times that their intent was always to build 4 houses. In a Falmouth Planning Board meeting, one of the members of the board admitted it was his idea in April of 2020 to move from 1 house to 4 because the project was not economically feasible. That is, the FHT could not afford to build only 1 house on the lot. Ms. Bissonette claims it was her idea and that she informed the planning board. We challenge that statement, seeing as your board member claims he spoke with her in an unofficial capacity and did not inform the other board members of the conversation. 5, understanding public law in a layman's capacity, we reference 135 Wells Ave LLC versus the Housing Appeals Committee, which states that residential 40B does not supersede property rights. Please forward a written explanation as to how a covenant can move from 1 residential property to 4 and now to 3. Refer to 478 Mass Law 346 of 2017. 6, there has been no written information on the following items. A, trash removal. Will the town pick up trash on the street? This is a health and safety issue with all residents putting garbage and trash at the already overflowing corner of Irene and Lewis Neck Road. B, fencing around the entire property. We are requesting a 6 to 8 foot fencing. Who will maintain it? What will happen if the fence is not cared for? C, electrical system. With additional housing, utilizing private electrical lines, all lines need to be underground and professionally managed by an electric company, for example, NSTAR. D, road maintenance. As residents, we have contributed to the tarring of the road. We would like a written guarantee that all damage done to the road during construction would be corrected within a timeline by FHT. E, emergency access vehicles. Where is the turnaround point that was requested for fire and ambulance? The road is not to code as far as width and has no cul-de-sac. F, lighting and sidewalks. School children must walk to Acapesket Road to get to the school bus. There are no sidewalks and no street lighting on the road. This seems to be a grave safety hazard, especially during the winter months when there is more darkness during the school day. G, proximity to current housing. Please confirm that the property lines which abut the front of 51 Lewis Neck are within code. These properties sit in the front yard of said property. H, covenant. Has the determination of access been completed? We request that written responses be given to each of the above items. We are not against affordable housing. It seems as if this lot with one house would be appropriate. If this plan is not feasible for the Falmouth Housing Trust due to money issues, we suggest selling the lot for profit and finding more appropriate land. We look forward to your responses. And again, that says thank you. Kathleen J. Mayer and Bernard G. McDade, and they're at 51 Lewis Neck Road. So that's, I think that's everything right now that's in the file. The stuff that I didn't mention is stuff that the board members had on the additional engineering comments. I do have one comment, just because now that I've gone through the file here, I've been doing a mix between reviewing files here and reviewing them online. And the letter I read into the record that is in here from the town planner, dated April 14th, 2021, is no longer available on our online version. I know it was there because I started to read it and then went back. So I guess I would like to know from our department, how would something like that come off the town website? I know it is in the public file that's here, but as you know, the town hall doesn't like a lot of people coming in during COVID. So would the administrator have any explanation on how that's not on the online file? And again, Ms. Moynihan submitted a lot of information in a letter, and in the letters that she did, she also referenced that specific memo. I just don't understand why it has disappeared from our website.
So the website information is provided as a public service. There are not necessarily guarantees that all documents submitted to the file are on the website. I know that that document was previously on the website.
So why was it removed?
I don't have a good answer for you on that.
All right, so I guess to the chairman, to the board, where that's kind of an unusual response, and I don't know where this is going, but at some point we have to find out why information is being removed from the public website. It doesn't make any sense why that document specifically out of all the documents there would be removed. And it is in the public file. It is in the information that we received. It is in Ms. Moynihan's information and also Mr. Freeman. I just find it very unusual, and we've had issues where stuff in regular files sometimes disappears, it gets mixed up. But when you post to the online website, it's specifically posted. I guess as the members know here, when we get our postings, they're not actually organized. They're just organized as they come in. So when we go through, we have to look through the whole list to get all the information. So somebody would have had actually gone in and specifically taken that document and removed it. And I just would like eventually some more of an explanation. Then I don't know how it disappeared and it's there as a courtesy.
All right. Thank you, Bob. I think for the purposes of tonight, the important thing is that you were able to read everything into the record. So maybe at some point we can follow up with staff about the posting online. Before we open up the hearing, I do just want to point out that we have received a significant amount of information, a lot of input within the last couple of days. So first, I just want to credit Noreen and Ashley for getting the board all that information, forwarding the emails along. It's obvious to me that there's a significant amount of interest in this project through those comments that we've received the last couple of days. And also, Bob informed us partially the reason why we took our break at 8 o'clock was, of course, because the board needed a break, but also because a number of people physically showed up to town hall in order to participate in tonight's hearing. And we were trying to accommodate them, allow them enough time to get home and either turn on FCTV or log on to Zoom. So if there's any, and I do see a few new people in the attendees list, which is great. So that means they were able to log on to Zoom. But again, if anyone is out there and they're watching FCTV, you can log on to www.falmouthma.gov/ZBA. From there is that link to Zoom, and you'll be able to participate once the time comes during the public comment period. And I know a lot of people out there had a lot of questions, and Bob, thank you for reading everything into the record. Typically with these projects, these 40B projects, there's a significant amount of information. The first night is really an introduction to the project, and the board typically, and we'll see how the night goes, we typically continue because the board does have follow-up questions and questions on technical data. We usually, or it is our policy these days to retain a peer engineer to review the project and provide more of a technical aspect at a further date. So I think I got everything out of the way that I wanted. So Attorney Moynihan, welcome.
Thank you. I guess Karen Bissonette is here, the executive director for the Falmouth Housing Trust. David Martin is the project engineer, and I believe the building contractor is here as well. So if those people could be elevated or at your preference, Mr. Chairman, I'm available if questions come up.
Sure. If I could pause you just for a second, Attorney Moynihan. So those people, if they could click the raised hand icon for right now, just because there's a few people in the attendees list, just to help Justin out with elevating them.
And Joanne O'Sullivan may be there as well, who's the president of the Falmouth Housing Trust. I have a screen presentation. If I may share my screen, I can show that to you and do a quick presentation for you.
Sounds good.
So this project is 3 homes, as you know. Each home is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. They are all for sale. 2 are at 80% AMI and 1 is 100% AMI. The 100% AMI does not qualify under the state regulations as an affordable unit, but it does qualify under the town funding requirements. So we are calling it an affordable unit. In the application materials, it's called a market unit because it has to be designated that way under the 40B statute, but it is 100% AMI. Each home is 2 stories. There are 3 lots proposed from 10,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet and private septics for each lot. The development cost for each home is calculated at $446,000. That includes all the soft costs, construction costs. The sale price for the 80% AMI is $230,000 currently, and the 100% is $270,000. We have, as I expect all of you know, a serious housing problem here in Barnstable County. As of April 20 of 21, the median home prices have gone up, and the Housing Trust has prepared this graph showing the median housing price is now at around $630,000. So definitely out of reach for many of our people in this community. Lumber prices, as we've all heard on the news, going through the roof as well, which is causing the increase in the construction costs for this project, as well as the significant delays that the applicants experienced, which I'll get into later on. The project location is off of Lewis Neck Road. This is the GIS map just showing the parcel highlighted. The neighboring homes you'll see surrounding the parcel, Carroll Ave, Harborview. The lots in some cases are comparable in terms of lot area and size and frontage, or in some cases even smaller than what's being proposed here. So for the standing requirements, we do have the nonprofit housing developer. We have site control through ownership, and there is a project eligibility approval issued by Mass Housing. It was originally a 4-unit approval. You do have in your file a modification of that where Mass Housing notes the change to the 3-unit approval, which the Housing Trust did in response to some comments received from neighbors and others. So in terms of our affordable housing plan, which was approved in 2019, our housing production plan, the objective is 56 ownership units in 5 years, 28 3-bedroom units for sale. Currently, there has been 1 3-bedroom unit built and occupied since that housing production plan was put in place. And that's on Deer Pond Road, which was built by the Housing Trust, ironically, as a by right non-40B home. So, the 40B permitting, it's not easy, it's time consuming, it's expensive. And as this data is showing, we're nowhere near our objectives from the housing production plan. The project has the Affordable Housing Committee support and does have the vote for the grants at $65,000 per unit, which does help with that development cost. In addition to the sale price proposed for the unit, but there is still a shortage, which the applicant has to make up with private donations. So as far as Falmouth goes, we are at 6.66% on the subsidized housing inventory for eligible units. We're 497 units short of the statutory minimum of 10%. As of July 2020, 358 units were needed to meet the production plan objective. The site conditions here, we have a site that's just over 1 acre. It was purchased by the Housing Trust in 2019 for consideration. It was not donated. It did have to be bought. The topography is relatively flat on site. It's naturally vegetated, except the existing small driveway areas. And the Lewis Neck Road has now been improved with drainage and pavement fairly recently this spring. We are not in a water resource protection district for the property. Neighborhood conditions, as I showed you, existing developed neighborhood. So this, I think, would be classified as infill development. The lot size is larger or comparable to the neighborhood lots. There are 6 existing houses on Lewis Neck Road, and it is within walking distance of employment, recreation, schools, services. The density is 2.65 units per acre, so relatively low density compared to other projects that the board has approved, particularly in recent years. The access and traffic conditions, single-family dwellings add minimal traffic to roadways. The ITE trip generation rates are 0.99 per dwelling unit in the peak hour. So a total of 2.97, very minimal peak hour trip generation rate, which, as you know, is what we use for assessing traffic mitigation impacts. We use the peak hour because that's deemed to be the high traffic impact time period. So very low trip generator in the peak hour, certainly far less than the local and regional standards that are applied of 25 peak hour trips for deemed traffic impacts or requiring mitigation. And the road has recently been improved with new drainage approved by the planning board. This is just a color of the site plan. The colors tend to help see it a little bit better on the screen. So we have the outline of the parcel here. The Housing Trust originally had looked at siting houses in the rear of the parcel. It was decided that really to accommodate the neighbors here up on Harborview Ave and a neighbor here who has filed an objection to reduce the number of houses to 3, to make this area in the back open space, keep it naturally vegetated, to add a naturally vegetated buffer along this easterly lot line as a buffer to this property here. And also in an effort to reduce the curb cuts off Lewis Neck Road, to add a shared driveway in blue coming in off this curb, this curb cut coming in and then branching off here to serve this lot in the back. This particular lot would have its own access and parking area directly off Lewis Neck Road. All the water lines would be separate coming in, utilities as well, underground from a utility pole that's currently exists. The septic systems are sited at the rear of these 2 houses and right in here as well. They are 3-bedroom Title V septic systems. These are just the separate plans. You have these in their file. There's nothing different here. There's just one for each of the 3 lots separately, and the back lot. These are the elevation plans showing the style proposed for the home. So we've got a shingled home, traditional Cape Cod architecture with white trim, front door in the middle, the rear of the house having a slider off the dining room kitchen area, a deck, bulkhead in the back. It's just another cross section of the home. And then the floor plans, again, you have these in your file just for reference. So we have the first floor entryway here. We have the living room, dining room in the back, the deck, kitchen area here in the back, bulkhead, master bedroom on the first floor with a bathroom on the first floor as well. And then the second floor, stairway going up the middle, full bath, and 2 bedrooms, 1 on each side for the second floor. And the basement plan, the basements would be unfinished. There's a stairwell going into the basement. And this plan is showing the foundation layout as well. So the landscape details, I did supply a color sketch today. I can show that to you as well. The landscape is relatively simple. Hydrangea plantings at the foundation at the front and back, azalea plantings, again, traditional, typical foundation plantings. Some holly proposed for the rear yard of lots 2 and 3, and on the side yard of lot 1, another holly again in the rear yard of 2 and 3, and the side yard of this should say lot 1. That's an error. I apologize for that. Then in between the homes, some juniper plantings, some evergreens to just buffer between the homes on 2 and 3, and along the westerly lot line of lot 1. So I can show you where those plantings are proposed on here. So between 2 and 3, the junipers would go along this lot line just to buffer those two homes. There'd be 10, 5 on each lot. And then on this lot here, they would come down at that bend in the road and come along this lot line here just to buffer that side of the house from the shared driveway. On the zoning bylaw waivers, we have asked for waivers for lot area, frontage, and minimum average width. The waivers requested are necessary for the housing development and for preservation of the open space. The lot coverage is met for overall for the parcel at over an acre. We would be covering 6.2% of that 1.13 acres by structures, 8.2% overall, so very low overall coverage. The lot coverage for each of lots 1, 2, and 3 is met for structures and overall. The building setback requirements are met, building height is met, number of storage is met, and parking is met for the property, for the plants. The Falmouth Local Comprehensive Plan, the policies, I put these on here because there's some reference in the file that some of the project doesn't meet the local comprehensive plan, but I think that's not the case. I thought you should have this in your reference material. One policy is to allow for greater infill development and density where appropriate. Another is to encourage and allow the market to allow for multiple housing opportunities. And another is to accept the responsibility to provide for housing for people in all stages of life. The development standards that are noted for the funding priorities by the Affordable Housing Fund Board of Trustees, which is the select board. These standards have been met here. It creates affordable housing with an increased density. It's compatible with the neighborhood, meets the criteria of the target population, provides housing for larger families needing 3 bedrooms, first-time homebuyer housing, workforce housing, more affordable units than required under 40B, and preserves open space with small clustered lots. And the project does support the implementation of local and regional housing plans and supports the housing choice goal of 135 new houses. That is the PowerPoint presentation. And if you like, I do have a number of comments based on the referrals. I don't know if you'd like me to do that now or if you would like to stop me and ask questions, and then I can pick up later with some response comments.
Attorney Moynihan, I think it might be best if you address the comments now, and then we can circle back and see if the board has any additional comments.
Okay. So none of my responses to the referrals were read into the record. So would you like me to review those responses, or has the board reviewed the written material that I presented? I guess I'd like some confirmation that the board has seen all of my replies, because I'm a little concerned at this point, maybe that there's some information that the board hasn't received. So I did write a lengthy response to the engineering referral. Maybe I could just highlight that because that seemed to be kind of a major one.
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, so on the engineering referral, the response on the Title V septic systems was that the septic systems would meet Title V of the State Environmental Code. The applicant would have no objection to a condition that said septic systems for all lots would meet the requirements of the Falmouth Health Department pursuant to Title V of the State Environmental Code. You also have in your file a referral from Scott McGann where he confirms that the septic systems look fine to him. Another condition, no objection. Upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for all residences with legible numbers. And the applicant shall post at the end of the shared driveway for lot 2 and 3, indicating access to 57 and 59 Lewis Neck Road. On the grading and drainage, no objection to a condition. All roof areas shall discharge to dry wells as shown on the project plans. The proposed grading is not shown on the plans because there is no grading proposed. The site is flat. The foundations will meet the building code standards of 8 inches above grade. The expense of foundation elevation should not be necessary. There is no grading issue. There's no topography issue here. The applicant would have no objection to a condition such that foundations for the proposed dwelling shall meet Mass Building Code standards. The existing tree lines are not shown on the plan because the site is currently fully treed, except for the existing gravel drive area and the small area of paved driveway as shown on the plans. The limit of clearing is not shown on the plans because the 3 lots will be entirely cleared except for the vegetated buffer shown on the plans on lots 1 and 3. The section of the bylaw referenced by engineering is intended of 240-112 is intended to apply to alleviate pollution problems caused by existing or proposed storm drain systems which discharge directly into the town's streams, ponds, lakes, or other sensitive areas. There's no discharge of that nature proposed for the project. Accordingly, that section that is cited is not applicable to the project. The grading of the proposed lots is not required due to the existing flat elevations. The houses will sit on the lots as shown on the plans. No additional information should be necessary. The applicant has no objection to the recommended condition regarding the soil erosion and sediment control. With respect to the lot boundary monuments, permanent monuments will be installed at all angle points at all lots prior to issuance of any certificate of occupancy on any of the lots. The easement boundary for the shared driveway is shown on a plan that you have. It will be shown on a plan recorded at the Registry of Deeds if the permit is granted. To install monuments should not be necessary on the easement lines. It'll be an added expense, and we have given you that updated plan. The portion of paved driveway will be removed. A small portion of the paved driveway that's existing, that is, that's located within the vegetated buffer on lot 1 will be left to naturally vegetate. The remaining portion of the paved driveway on lot 1 will be loamed and seeded. Lot 1 to 3 site plans, the dry well proposed for lot 1 within the parking area will be H20 load rated. No objection to a condition. The dry well proposed for lot 1 within the parking area will be H20 load rated. The dry well, there is quite a bit of talk in the engineering referral, and it's also unfortunate that the engineering department didn't update their referral. Usually they do that, so we don't have to go through this, but that hasn't been done here. But in any event, there was reference to the board asking or thinking about asking for dry well setbacks on the plans. We said that the dry wells maintain appropriate setbacks from the houses given the soil conditions, which are very well suited for drainage. Mr. Martin, the applicant's engineer, has advised that the setbacks are appropriate given the soil conditions. The state plumbing code does not make reference to a 10-foot minimum setback as suggested. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. The stormwater handbook rules for groundwater recharge minimum 10-foot setback for drainage structures from property lines is not applicable to this project. The handbook exempts single-family dwellings and housing developments of 4 or fewer homes. I filed that reference. The site is not a critical area. Notwithstanding the handbook, they are recommendations only and not regulations that the board is required to apply. but in any event, they should not be applicable here. So the request or the reference to adding setbacks for drainage facilities to the project plans is an added engineering and surveying expense. It should not be required. The reference to the planning department comments is not accurate, as there is site control for the parcel in ownership. The road improvements that have been completed in accordance with 2 determinations of access now issued by the planning board are done. So, and I'll get to that in a minute. We have not filed a formal landscape plan. We filed a sketch plan, which is, I think, authorized by your regulations and the 40B regulations for projects of 4 or fewer homes. So that is the engineering referral. I think the planning board or the planner's referral, the reason it was taken off the website was because the planner was asked to withdraw it by the town manager's office. The opinion is inaccurate. It was written after the road improvement, pavement and drainage was installed, but did not reference that work having been done. It was highly prejudicial to the applicant to have that inaccurate information in the record. So there was a request to have it withdrawn, and it was. It was not taken out of your file. We had actually requested that the planner himself write a memo correcting it or withdrawing it, but that was not honored. So, you know, this is an ongoing problem with this project. It's just been, quite frankly, one thing after another with this covenant business. And the covenant has become this issue to prevent, you know, affordable housing development on this property, which is really unwarranted. And I can get into that in a minute. But as far as the memo that you read, Mr. Dugan, into the record from the town planner, there are 2 major inaccuracies. One is the status of the road was inaccurate. It hadn't been inspected by the planner. No information had been given to him as to the condition of the road. So that was inaccurate. The idea that the covenant needs to be released, in his opinion, is not our understanding. It's not what we have suggested with the legal responses that we've provided and the legal opinions. And from what I understand, what town council has indicated as well to the staff and to your board, although we haven't been given the benefit of that opinion. So that's why the opinion was taken down from the website. And I don't think that's a secret. In any event, the opinion of town council on that issue, I have asked for it to be released to the applicant. The response I've received is that that would be up to the board to vote to do so. I think it's prejudicial for the applicant to not have it. I think it has been discussed publicly by the planning board at its meeting a few weeks ago. It's been circulated among department heads at the town hall. It's not a confidential communication between the zoning board of appeals and its council to warrant a claim of privilege. So I've filed a letter in the record specifically asking the board to vote to release it. And I think that's the right thing and the fair thing to do in the circumstances. I just don't know how it can be privileged when everybody at town hall has pretty much seen it except the applicant. So, but that would be up to the board to vote that. As far as the covenant goes, you know, there's a wealth of information in the file on this, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. But it's important to go back to the history of this covenant and why it was done, so that there's an understanding of why the housing trust even entered into this agreement with the planning board in the first place. The parcel in question was not donated to the housing trust. It was put under purchase and sale agreement. I believe they paid $60,000 for it. In order to justify this nonprofit paying money for this parcel, they had to be able to establish that the lot was eligible for at least one building permit. They couldn't in good conscience go ahead and purchase this parcel without knowing that they could build at least one house on it. It would be, could have been a waste of money, waste of fundraising money. So as we often see with properties that are put under purchase and sale agreement, there was a condition in that agreement that before the housing trust would buy the parcel, it would go to the planning board under the zoning bylaw, and it would ask the planning board to issue an access determination to allow one single family dwelling on the property. That's all that the housing trust could ask of the planning board. That's all that the planning board could approve at that time. The planning board does not have jurisdiction over 40B. The planning board doesn't have the right to consider multiple houses. So under the zoning bylaw, there's a section, I believe it's 240-179.1. That's a zoning bylaw provision that says if somebody wants a building permit, they apply to the planning board for a determination as to the adequacy of the road for that use. So that's what the housing trust did. No different than many other access determinations that the planning board has granted over the years, which I myself have presented to the planning board. It's a by right, buildable lot. We're coming in. We want to get the access determination so that we can know that the house can at least have one house on it. That process was undertaken prior to meeting with the planning board. The housing trust representatives had numerous meetings with the town planner, the town manager, town council, and other members of town hall, advising them that there clearly was an intention to build more than one house on this property, that they were looking at 4 houses. And in fact, Ms. Bissonette even gave the town planner a preliminary site plan showing 4 houses. So it was well known that this property was going to be purchased for affordable housing. But the
Moynihan,
Yep.
my apologies, if I could pause you for just a second. I do have you at the 15-minute mark. Do you need any more time to present?
Well, I'm actually in response now. So that's why I was asking if you wanted me to continue on or just wait for questions.
So Mr. Chairman, I would like her to just continue on and finish this part, just so we know and the public knows what her responses were.
Sure. Apologies for Attorney Moynihan. Go right ahead.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. So it'll just be a few more minutes. So that's the history on this. The housing trust had to go to the planning board under the zoning bylaw. It wasn't a 40B project. There's a specific provision in the zoning bylaw that it would allow them to go to the planning board, ask for an access determination for one house. That's all they could get. They weren't allowed to ask for more than one house. So there was no mention of more than one house at that proceeding because it wasn't relevant. But nothing was being hidden from the planning board. People had been made aware prior to that they were buying this for affordable housing. So that's very important because it goes to the intention. So what occurred was that the planning board said, all right, if you do some clearing of brush and some filling of potholes, we will grant your access determination. But we want you to enter into an agreement with us that says that you will do that work. And if you do that work, you can be given your building permit. That's the agreement. The covenant itself, if you look at it carefully, it says, and I quote, "This covenant sets forth the agreement by and between the Falmouth Housing Trust and the town of Falmouth and the Falmouth Planning Board with respect to the Falmouth Planning Board's endorsement of the A&R plan and the issuance of a building permit for one single-family residential structure on parcel C2. That's the agreement. You do the work that we ask you to do, and you get your building permit. There's no need to ask for that covenant to be removed. It's an agreement of what needs to be done to secure that building permit. It doesn't say that no other houses can be built on the property. It doesn't go on to say the covenant further prohibits any further construction on the parcel other than one single family dwelling. It doesn't say, and no further building permit shall ever be issued for the parcel without planning board approval. Doesn't say that. It was an agreement to do X, Y, and Z. Once those things are done, we will allow you to have a building permit. And that's what the zoning bylaw allows for. No different than any other access determination in town. So our position has always been that if there was a disconnect between the town planner and other members who had this information and what the planning board was told, we can't be responsible for that. We can't be responsible for that. If anything, there has been some claim that the planning board somehow has been prejudiced by this or whatever. But my position is, what about the Falmouth Housing Trust? The Falmouth Housing Trust never agreed to any such a restriction on the property. It never conveyed any intention to do that, but it has been severely prejudiced by this position that has been taken by the town planner and the planning board that they somehow have control over this property through this covenant. But nobody seems to talk about that. Nobody seems to be too worried about how that disconnect with the planning board and the staff has impacted the Falmouth Housing Trust. It's cost an immense amount of money. It's set back this project probably a year. The legal fees involved, you have Attorney Peter Freeman's memo in your file, and I would urge all of you to please read it carefully because it was a very well thought out opinion that gives the Board of Appeals the right to approve this project regardless of that covenant. That's the conclusion. It's not a well situation. This is not a restriction on the land use. It doesn't limit the use of this land to anything. It doesn't limit the use of the land. That's the important point. It says you have to do certain things in order to use the land in the way you want to use it. That's a very important distinction. So, the zoning board is charged with reviewing the adequacy of access of the private way for safe vehicle access. We have submitted a letter to your file from the applicant's engineer because we couldn't get the engineering department or the town planner to give you any information as to the current condition of the road, which is really disappointing, but we couldn't get that. So we had our own engineer go out and review the road. He's confirmed it has been paved in accordance with the plan approved by the planning board for Mr. Fender. The catch basins have been installed. All that work has been done. That's unrelated to what the Housing Trust was supposed to do, but that's just the added benefit. The Housing Trust also contributed $5,000 to the cost of that road pavement. So that's our position on the covenant. The covenant is of no effect any longer. It doesn't need to be released. It doesn't need to be removed. It's not a title issue. It's not a problem. It's really, in my view, no different than a planning board road covenant that goes on in the course of a subdivision approval that says, you can't get a building permit until you do X, Y, and Z. You pave the road, you put in utilities, then you can have your building permit. That's it. But the distinction with those types of approvals is they specifically say, you got to come back and get a release. Here, this does not say that. And that's a very, very important point. This was an agreement. That's it. And the agreement was met. So I urge you to review Attorney Freeman's opinion. This is a very, very important issue. And obviously it's been brought up by some of the abutters and they're, looking at it as well. But those are my comments on the covenant. I do have some responses as well on some of the abutter letters. I know I've been talking here for quite some time, so I will take your guidance on that, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to continue or to leave it at that.
Sure. I'm just looking at the time right now. It is
Yes.
9:15. We conclude the board's business at 9:30. We might be, obviously, we're looking at a continuance tonight, but I do want to get around to some board questions, some public comment. And since the public comment that you have was sent via email, maybe we can address that during the next hearing. But just to start off regarding the town planner's referral, if it was the intent of the town planner to essentially remove his comment, I'd certainly want that as part of the record, just some sort of confirmation from him, just so we have a fair and accurate accounting of the record for this application. Regarding town council's opinion to this board, I do have a copy of the Massachusetts Attorney General's advisory. It's called the Advisory on the July 2007 SJC ruling regarding confidential communications between public entities and their attorneys. And it's a 3-page memo issued by the AG's office, and it cites to Suffolk Construction v. Division of Capital Asset Management. That's 449 Mass 444 in 2007. It states that the court held that the legal advice provided to public entities by their attorneys is privileged, even where the advice is contained in a document or record and the public entity is subject to the public records law, citing MGL Chapter 66, Section 10, and MGL Section 4, Chapter 4, Section 7, Clause 26. So it states in essence that the court held that the public entities are protected by the attorney-client privilege, even if the protected communications are contained in a public record. So as far as town council's opinion goes to this board, obviously the attorney-client privilege, it is held by the client. It is, in this case, the client is the ZBA. It's the ZBA's decision to ultimately decide whether to release town council's opinion. Attorney Moynihan, I know you represented the fact that perhaps that very same opinion has been circulated around town hall or perhaps with other boards. That's news to me, and it certainly doesn't weigh into my decision-making process. I deliberately don't check other boards, especially when a topic is coming up that I know this board will see. But since town council's opinion is public record protected, at least by this board, it is the board's decision to decide whether to release that information or not. It's not the town manager, it's not Noreen as the zoning administrator, it's the board's decision. So that's my opinion on that. I don't know if the board wants to weigh in, or anyone has any sort of comment, or if we should come to a decision to release the decision, if it rises to a vote. I don't know, but I'll let the board discuss that at the moment.
I'd like to just make one comment about the removal on the memo, because we are quasi-judicial, and I do the same thing when I review projects. I specifically don't look at other meetings or other boards. And the problem I had, I think it was great, the explanation that Ms. Monahan said tonight. We saw something we felt was an error. We put in a request.
Mm-hmm.
The problem as a board member is I never saw any of that. I started to review something in a hard copy file. Many of us rely very heavily on the website. You know, we have so much paperwork as it is, we review to it. I was reading your letter, Ms. Monahan's letter, and Peter Freeman's, and they all referred back to this memo of April 14th. I couldn't find it, so I called this office and said, I'm missing the memo. The only answer I get is, we don't have it. It's not there anymore. And my answer is, what happened to it? It's gone. So as a member, I have never gotten an explanation from the town, the manager's office, the planner, and I think it's extremely inappropriate of the town specifically the manager's office, if that's where this is leading to have something pulled from our file without an explanation. And the idea is, well, it's in a hard copy at the office, so it meets the law, it's okay. We can't always check both files, and that's what we asked for. So again, this does not reflect on FHT. I think it's a direct reflect on the management office. And I know we've had some issues before, but as a board, we should expect that anything that is submitted to this board stays in the online and the personal file. And if it is going to be removed or changed, there needs to be a notation and something has to be sent out to the members. Again, like you said, TJ, it's the board. It's not the administrator. It's not the office. And it puts us at a very bad disadvantage. And when you discuss that this process has been very difficult for you and over the time and all these things have gone back and forth, imagine coming into a hearing like this and your first thing that you see is something's been removed and nobody will tell you why. So that's why I questioned it. It had nothing to do with you. It's the manager's office. And I think in the future, the board is going to have to open up a discussion with the management office to find out what happened in that case. As far as the attorney-client privilege, TJ, that you just mentioned, I have always felt that we should keep the memos private. I understand if I was an applicant, I would want to see what the comments are. But I have always thought of that as a client, and a lot of times I've been overruled and people have done it. So I just think it's better on the board's purview to get the information that we get from legal counsel for an opinion, and then we hear whatever the normal opinion is from applicant, and then we have the position to look at both of the information that we have and make a decision on that. So I would always be in favor of keeping the town council opinions privileged. But again, I just want to stress, I have a major issue the way this was handled with the manager's office. And I have never had an administrator been nervous to tell me what happened to something. So I knew something was wrong. And the administrator should never be put in that position by the town. And if the manager's office has an issue with information, then they go to the chairman and they discuss with the chairman what their issue is. But I am just hoping this doesn't happen in the future on other projects, or it hasn't happened in the past and we were just unaware of it. It should never come up.
Mr. Dugan, if I may, why wasn't the town planner asked to put a note in the file? I mean, he's been back since Monday. And why wasn't a request made? If this opinion is inaccurate, please send an email saying you're withdrawing it. That's my biggest problem with this thing.
And I agree if it's an opinion, but that's the whole point. Something should be there. You don't actually just, and like the chairman said, the town manager, if he submitted it, he's the one that has to remove it. I do not believe the town manager's office has the right to go in and just pull information. They could put in something else that said, we disagree with it. This is our reason why we think it was inaccurate. We've requested he remove it, but something should be there. We shouldn't be hit with this up front.
I think you're assuming that the town manager's office removed it. I don't know who removed it. I'm saying that we were advised by the town manager's office that it had been removed in response to our request for Mr. Bott to either A, update the memo, take 5 minutes to write to the zoning board and say, gave you inaccurate information. In fairness to the applicant, the road is paved. And, I've received advice from town council and my opinion is withdrawn or to be updated.
So I would request that our chairman touch base with the town manager's office, touch base with Julian Suso, and get an answer to the question: why was it removed? What was the procedure behind it? And give us some kind of a written explanation and find out who actually ordered the removal or not. I shouldn't go above. I assume it's a manager's office only because I know that when you're dealing with the administrator in an office, they only answer to a town to 2 people. And if an administrator is not telling me any reason why it's gone, I would go to the conclusion it's somebody above them. But maybe it was somebody else. But I think our chairman needs to find out, and we need to get an answer from Julian Suso and any correspondence that were related to that may have gone out, if they have gone out, so that we know exactly what went on. And again, this is a procedural thing. It has nothing, against the FHT. I just think it's something as a board we have to find out. You know, we've had issues with other departments. We've got issues with other departments we've had sessions on. I would have never expected something like this to happen without an explanation. I would have expected to say, oh, it was removed. Why was it removed? Oh, it was removed because an explanation. I never thought someone would say, or an answer like we just got tonight, it's just gone.
Bob,
So-
can I interrupt you and ask the chair a question?
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Scott.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, even though Falmouth Housing Trust is named Falmouth Housing Trust, it's not a town entity, right?
It's a quasi-public town agency. It was created many years ago as a housing trust fund under the state legislation on behalf of the town of Falmouth. So it's
So
considered.
is it a nonprofit?
It's a nonprofit, yes.
All right, so is it considered a third party?
It's considered as an independent party. It's not
Okay.
it's not considered a governmental entity.
So therefore, the town manager's office or whoever have no authority over this.
Correct.
So you made a statement, Laura, that somebody made a request to have something taken down. Who'd you make the request to?
No, that we didn't ask for something to be taken down.
Well, who was the request made to? That's all I know.
The request was made to the town manager's office
There you go.
to ask Mr. Bott to update or withdraw his memorandum because it was inaccurate and highly prejudicial to the applicant. In fairness to the applicant, we asked that the town planner correct the record for this application.
So for the record, it was you or your office that asked the town manager's office.
It was
to initiate that.
It was Miss Bissonette through the Housing Trust.
Okay,
Asked,
that was just for clarification, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you,
and
Scott.
and if I may finish, that request, which I think is a very basic request, to take 5 minutes to send an email to Miss Stockman saying, you know, the information I gave you is inaccurate. The road has been paved. You know, I get that now. That request was not honored for whatever reason, but it goes to the history of what the Housing Trust has been dealing with on this project for the past year and a half, quite frankly. And so Ms. Bissonette continued to pursue it with the town manager's office for assistance over that employee because the employee was not responding. That's really what happened. Who took it down or asked for it to be taken down? I don't know myself, but I'm telling you.
Do you agree that it potentially could have had some kind of substantial weigh in one way or the other, whether we had this information or not on the outcome of the case?
Well, you have it in your record, so it's.
Then why take it down at the website level? Why ask to have it taken down there?
We didn't ask for it to be taken down.
But it was.
Let's get that
And
clear.
that's why we have heartache about it tonight.
We asked
Somebody's
for.
request.
We did not ask for anything to be removed from your website. What the Housing Trust asked for was for the town planner to correct his memorandum to the Zoning Board of Appeals or withdraw it. That's what we asked for, which I think is a very fair request.
Outside of this forum.
That's right. We asked for that to be done because it was inaccurate. And that's normally how, with the same thing with engineering. If the engineering referral has information that hasn't been updated by the hearing, the applicant will go to that staff member directly and say, could you please address this? Because we don't want a delay in the hearing. So in this particular case, it was no different. Could you please update this memorandum or withdraw it because it's inaccurate and it's prejudicial to the applicant? That request, the response was, Mr. Bott's away until May 10th on leave. Can't do anything. Sorry, we can't help you. Okay. Came back on Monday. We followed up. Is this going to be done? Not done. Tuesday, not done. Ms. Bissonette finally went to the town manager and assistant town manager and said, what is happening with this? That was our involvement. Okay.
Right.
So let's get that.
Understood, Attorney Moynihan.
Time on this.
Well,
I know. I feel like we're spinning our wheels on these two issues.
Well,
here.
I think it's important to spin our wheels on this.
No, no, Scott, I agree. I agree, but
Yeah,
it
it is important.
no,
Does
and
Mr.
Attorney
Brock
Moynihan,
need
I agree
attendance?
100%. It's just, you know, I'd rather get beyond, obviously these issues need to be addressed, but at the same time, I'd really like to get beyond it and get into the real substantive issues of the actual application. And it is what
Well,
it is.
Mr. Chairman, what else don't we know?
What else don't we know?
Right.
I mean, we haven't gotten to really any of the technical aspects of the project yet, or any of the real details.
I understand.
You know, it's unfortunate that we've had to spend so much time on this, and obviously, I want answers regarding town planner's opinion and how that came to be, and how it wasn't revised, or how it wasn't withdrawn for this board. I mean, I thought Bob was doing the right thing, reading everything into the record, and now it comes through this hearing about exactly how that came to be, and perhaps
Now it's on the record.
Right.
So can I just ask a project issue? We can get back to the project for a second. So I know that you went for financing. It was 4 units and you've gone down to 3. And then one of them is at 100% AMI. Would there be the opportunity for the town to donate funds to that 100% unit so that you could bring that down to the 80% so we could put it on our SHI?
Well, Karen can chime in on this as well, but there is a real need for the so-called workforce housing, 3-bedroom, 100% AMI. I mean, you have an eligibility issue with that gap, you know, of people that are earning the 100% annual median income, and they even though they're not earning a whole lot, they're still earning too much to be eligible, you know. So the Housing Trust really felt very strongly that they wanted to include a 100% AMI unit in order to be able to put a family in there that really was deserving of a 3-bedroom home, but wasn't going to be eligible at 80%. So that's really why it's there.
Okay, thank you.
And it is 9:30. The board's business does conclude at 9:30, so we would need a motion to continue the board's business. Bear in mind, it's not just this hearing; it's other items that we have.
All right,
on our open
I'm
meeting
going to
law.
move that we go to 10:30 because I don't want to have to do this 3 times.
All right.
Second.
Certainly don't have to go all the way to 10:30, but
Well,
thank you,
that's
Ken.
right.
Yep. All right. So the motion was made by Ken and seconded by Bob. Did I hear you on that?
Yep.
All right. Very good. All right. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
Thank you, Mary. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. James?
James Morse.
Thank you, James. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. And Scott?
Oslinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. Motion passes unanimously. The board's business will can go till 10:30, but hopefully we can end before then.
Mr.
All
Chairman, I have a request that before we go, because there's people from the public that I guess want to chime in here.
Certainly are.
Before we go through all the board comments, that maybe we hear from some of them, because
Sure.
that might make a difference in what we say.
Sure. Thank you, Ken. All right, so we will turn it to public comment at this time. And once again, because some people were stuck at town hall and had to come home and maybe did not hear these instructions, public comment can be accessed via www.falmouthma.gov/ZBA. Go there. There's the Zoom link for you to sign on and participate. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. We ask you to please don't use any derogatory statements. Comments are directed toward the project itself. It can include an opinion in favor, in opposition, or it just might be a question about the nature of the project. The chair will limit discussion in the interests of time in the event that comments become repetitive. We do ask you to state your full name and address for the record. So again, if anyone is out there, and I lost Zoom, there it is. I am having a weird issue right now. All right, hold on. There we go. All right. If anyone out there has a question, comment, or concern regarding this project, go ahead and click the raised hand icon. We will elevate you in a moment. There were a number of people who provided questions and comments via the chat function and apparently a Q&A section that I didn't even know existed. Let's see, Joan Bates typed into the chat, and just looking it over, it looks like the exact same comment that Bob read into the record. As a realtor in Falmouth since 2004 and a resident since 2002, as well as a member of the board of the Falmouth Housing Trust, I wish to encourage you to approve the comprehensive permit being requested by our organization for Lewis Neck Road. The lack of affordable housing for young families here on Cape Cod is appalling. The most recent increase in price and scarcity of available housing are accentuating this existing and continuing issue drastically. Having this piece of land available in a classic Cape Cod community with convenience to schools and shopping, as well as our treasured amenities, is very exciting. We have strived to adjust the project to add 3 new single-family homes to attract young families who are eligible and finally, we hope, able to live in Falmouth. Our plans have gone through a number of adjustments to accommodate the use and satisfy the requirements of typical families. We hope and trust that the project will move ahead smoothly upon approval, as the need is truly urgent. So thank you for that, and just wanted to make sure that we got that into the record. And I do see some raised hands, and if anyone else there has comments, go ahead and click the raised hand icon. We'll just elevate you all one at a time. Scrolling through the list here, there was a person the ID says Frank. I'm not sure who Frank is. Maybe if you can put in your name and address for the record. They used the Q&A section. Let's see here. It appears that this account was just providing comment throughout Attorney Moynihan's testimony, so it's provided a little bit without context at this moment, but I'll just read everything in. I support all from Kathleen as a homeowner on Lewis Neck. So what is she saying? They are not going to comply with the covenant by law. How can she do this? The bottom line is the covenant cannot be overridden. Look how close they are to the abutting houses. They already staked out the property for those houses without even getting approval. So far as I can see, they agreed in writing for only one house on C2. They signed the covenant for one house. Does not matter. Not so, not 1, not 4, now 3. How did you go from 1 to 4, then 3? That is not appropriate, and smoke and mirrors come on. She has been talking for a long time. Is this a court argument? And there was another comment, 1 house, not 3. They lied. So again, I was told by town council if anyone types anything into the record, then I would have to read it out loud. My comments regarding public comments still stand. We ask you to please refrain from making any personal or derogatory statements. But we do see a few raised hands, so why don't we get along to them? If we could elevate Kathleen and Bernard McDade. All right, Kathleen and Bernard, you've been elevated. So if you've never used Zoom before, you'll have to do 2 things. You'll have to turn on your video and turn on your microphone in order to participate.
Unmute.
All right, looks
Okay.
like we have you. Welcome.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments.
Sure.
One,
Could you give us your address first, please?
Sure, 51 Lewis Neck Road. We are
Fantastic.
abutters to the property.
All right, thank you.
I challenge Attorney Moynihan's statement where she said she went from 4 houses to 3 houses from comments from the neighbors. We have had, except for one interaction, no interactions with the Falmouth Housing Trust in a year and a half. So I'm not quite sure where that statement comes from. The second thing that I'd really like to know is there's a big question about the electrical system here that everybody keeps passing by. The wires to that lot are privately held. And when I spoke with Ms. Bissonnette 2 weeks ago at our one meeting, she said she was just going to, quote, call NSTAR or whomever to get the wires put underground. They don't manage the wires. I would like to put a proposal through that they do manage them, because if they're on our property and there's 3 other, and from what I understand, it's supposed to be completely electrical houses. One, the box there has not been made for that many homes. And if there is an issue, then I don't want to be fighting with 3 neighbors about it. I guess my other comments I've made within the statement that my husband and I drew up. And we do have questions with regard to, we've heard that the fire department verbally okayed the road. I'd like something in writing about that. And I guess one of the other comments that Ms. Bissonnette said 2 weeks ago was that, quote, the property was not really deemed unbuildable. And I'm very confused about that, because when we bought our property, one of the main reasons why we bought this home to retire in is the fact that the property was unbuildable. So I'm not quite sure if you could explain that to me. That would be very helpful. And the last statement that I'll make tonight is we see the stakes in the ground for the driveway, the houses, etc., which seems to be putting the cart before the horse, since there's not been an approval yet. But those stakes are right in our front yard. And I'm not sure if you all understand that. It's not like side by side to our house or in the back of our house or whatever. Those stakes are in our front yard. And I welcome any or all of you to come down and look and see how close these 3 houses are to our property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDade. And I can provide one answer for you, and I'll leave Attorney Moynihan to address the rest. If those stakes were placed out by the applicant in support of this application, that is actually at this board's request. The purpose of those stakes is for each individual board member when we go out and we perform a site visit. We do it on our own time. We don't go together. It's usually individually. So we go out there, we can see those stakes, we can see what's being proposed in relation to everything else in the area, such as your front yard, such as your house, your property line, things of that nature. So that's for the board's benefit. It's not putting the cart before the horse or anything like that. So that's just for us to get a better understanding of the overall project. So thank you for your comments tonight. We'll allow Attorney Moynihan to address the other issues that you raised, if she wants to address them now.
Also, quickly, just regarding referrals, the neighbor asked about where are things in writing. Any referrals that we read into the record, is such like from the fire department that says they're satisfied with the project, that actually is a referral that's always in writing, and it's always in the public file.
Yes, but these didn't come from you. They came from Ms. Bissonnette. So they did not come from the board.
But what I read into the file is actually coming from the department. So if I read a fire referral or health department, those are coming from those individual department heads, and that is in writing by the department head, and that would always be in the file.
Okay, thank you.
And you're welcome. And that's what this board relies upon, are referrals in the record from the fire department, other departments like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Attorney Moynihan. Oh, you're muted, Attorney Moynihan.
Thank you. So as far as the not being a buildable lot or the land being unbuildable, you know, this is something that you've heard before. You know, there is a plan that is recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. It's in Plan Book 641, page 33. It shows lot number C1, which is number 51, Lewis Neck. And then it shows next to it parcel C2, which is the subject parcel that we're dealing with. On parcel C2 on that recorded plan, there's clearly a note, C note 1 below, parcel number C2, 50,377 square feet, bracket, not a building lot. You go down to the note, it says parcel number C2 is not intended by endorsement of the plan to be shown as a building lot. Parcel C2 will be deemed a potential building lot only upon a determination by the planning board that there is adequate access to parcel C2 in accordance with MGL, et cetera, and the Falmouth zoning bylaw 240-179-1C, which is a section I referenced. So this is the plan, and I can submit it in your record, but it is a public document that would have been in the abutter's title when they bought their property, putting them on public notice that this is and could be a building lot. Okay, so I mean, to say that it's not a buildable lot is just that's just not the case on the public record. As far as the electrical goes, the issue is, and Karen can correct me if I'm wrong because she's done a lot of research on this, the pole is private. And there are these situations around. I dealt with one down on West Main Street before. The pole itself is a private pole, and that can be on private property. And the electric company will not maintain that pole. So if the pole falls down, or somebody crashes into the pole or whatever, the electric company is not going to replace the pole. But the electric company does maintain the wiring, they fix the wiring, they keep the electric circuit there. So this pole is on the Housing Trust property. And certainly the Housing Trust would have no issue with a condition that pole be maintained on that property as it currently exists. I mean, that's not a big deal to keep that pole maintained. But the wiring itself and the electrical itself is covered by the electric company. As far as the fire department, we've dealt with that. I think those are all the issues that were brought up, the staking. So as far as the neighborhood outreach goes, the Housing Trust sent a letter to all abutters within 300 feet. They went to the effort of getting an abutters list, writing a letter, mailing it out to numerous people, describing what they were doing with the project, saying, if you have any questions or concerns, please call me. This was from Karen. She didn't get one phone call. So, people are trying to have that kind of outreach as best as possible to be there if questions are answered. There was a meeting with Ms. McDade and a couple of other neighbors off of Harborview on April 12th. Karen was there with a site plan. They went through, the project, and she answered questions. So I'm not really sure that the Housing Trust should be sort of penalized for not doing more than that. But anyway, that's the situation. They did, on my advice, what they felt was enough to notify the neighbors of what was going on and to say, please call me if you'd like to talk more about it. And they didn't get one phone call. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Attorney Moynihan. Ms. Bissonnette, I don't know if you wanted to address anything. I was going to continue with the public, but go ahead if you want to.
Just a follow up.
Yep.
Yeah, I did have the Donahues, Cheryl Donahue actually called me prior to, and she's in a butter in the back, prior to the letter. And I had at least 2 phone calls with her prior to our meeting in person. So she asked me questions and she asked me if I had a site plan, and the site plan wasn't done. I told her as soon as it was, I would call her, and that's when we did meet. And also back in February of 2020, and I remember this because I was on vacation in Mexico, I did answer Frank, who you just read his comments. I did answer an email to him that I pulled out today because I knew exactly when it was, because I was in Mexico and I responded to him at the beach. So I did respond to him. He was asking questions about what kind of homes, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, because I am trying to provide a complete record here, and it's tough to communicate with people only via chat. Do you know Frank's last name at all?
It starts with a Z.
Okay.
Zook. I think his email is something ZUCK, but.
All right. Maybe you can follow up with Noreen on that, just to just so we have
yes.
a full record. All right.
Yeah, he's not on the abutters list. I believe his wife or partner is. So anyway, right. I don't. But I can find out. I will find out.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we'll move on to, if we could elevate Addie Drulette, please. All right, Ms. Drulette, you've been elevated. You just need to turn on your video and turn on your microphone.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to say I was present with Karen when we met with a few abutters last month to discuss some of the improvements and what our plans were.
Okay. Sorry, are you speaking on behalf of the Falmouth Housing Trust?
I'm sorry. I'm Addie Drolette. I live at 56 Meadowview, and I am a member of the Housing Trust Board. I'm sorry.
No worries.
So I just wanted to confirm that we have met with a couple of neighbors, discussed their concerns, assured them of what our plans were. And I didn't think it was terribly a negative experience. I think it was pretty well received at the time. So I just wanted to add that comment, please.
All right. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If we could.
DJ Frank has volunteered his name in the Q&A. It's,
okay. Is that where it went?
ZUCCARELLO, Zuccarello.
There we go. 10 Lewis Neck Road. Thank you. I didn't even know we had a Q&A section, so that's all right. The things we do to provide a fair and accurate record. All right. If we could elevate Jackie Fender, please. All right. Jackie, you've been elevated. You just need to turn on your video and turn on your microphone. Nope. Looks like you turned on. There it is. Just need your microphone now. We have your video.
Hi, can you hear us?
Welcome.
Okay, my name is Bill Fender, and I'm an abutter on the other side from Kathleen. And a couple things, Laura mentioned that there were 6 houses out there. There are actually 7 right now, and I have an empty lot that it would end up being, but just so for the record. The only thing I'm concerned about is that there's a driveway for 2 houses right along my lot line. And when they make the turn in, they're going to be shining their lights right on the house that I'm going to be building. I would, like Kathleen, I would like a fence too, for at least 200 feet or so. The distance between on our lots is 384 feet, I believe. But 200 of the first 200, it would be nice to have like a 6-foot stockade fence. And if everything goes through on it. And as far as the electricity, when they say it's private, that means it's private. That means the lines are too. You got to, Eversource will not come out. I'm an electrical contractor. When they say it's private, it's private. They won't come out and fix stuff if one of the high voltage cables breaks or something. You got to find somebody to fix it. So it's all private, but there are electrical contractors that do that. So I don't, but there are some out there. That's about all I have to say.
All right. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Fender.
We'll get clarification on that. That was the information I had, but we will clarify that.
Sure.
On the wiring.
All right. I'm not seeing anyone else for public comment at the moment, so let's throw it back to the board. Does the board have any follow-up questions? Or Ms. Bissonette, were you gonna?
Yeah, I just had a comment. Attorney Moynihan mentioned how difficult this project has been and how expensive it has become. And mostly it's because of legal fees, engineering fees. We've had to do some extraordinary things. Also, extraordinary fees, and Mr. Fender will agree with me that it costs a lot more to build. So just for the 3 houses, because one of the reasons we decided to go from 4 to 3 was because of the cost, okay? Written into my budget, and I will share this with you, is a $20,000 development fee. $20,000 development fee. And I've been doing this for 2 years. I first went to see Mr. Bott on April 3rd, 2019. So the cost is a concern. You saw the cost of the homes. $446,000 to build one of those homes. So anything you ask us to do at this point is really kind of extraordinary. I think we're putting a good product forward. If anyone has seen what we have done, one of the things we have done is Odd Fellows Hall and Town Hall, and it's a beautiful building. It's really the most beautiful building in Town Hall Square. And so I'm just saying that it has been extremely difficult, and I have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars through philanthropy, through generous people from this community for this project. We will be putting in the Housing Trust more than the town will be putting in. So I just want to make that clear that that is our source of funding, is the community, philanthropy and tax dollars by the Affordable Housing Fund. So if anyone has any questions about that, but I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bissonette.
One other comment, if I can.
Briefly, Mr. Fender, we typically don't, because you were left up there. We typically don't do this, but briefly, go right ahead.
Okay. The driveway is right on the lot line, and the house that they're building is going to be 14 feet away from the line. It's going to be difficult for them to stay on their property. That's why I want a fence, so they stay on their property. When they dig the hole, they open it up much bigger, and it's going to be much closer to my property. I'm very concerned about that. That's it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Fender. All right. We do have someone else for public comment, and after that, I'll end public comment. But if we could elevate Cheryl's laptop, please. We'll find out who Cheryl is in a minute. All right, Cheryl, you've been elevated. You just need to turn on your video and your microphone.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Cheryl Donahue. I'm the abutter behind the project, and
what's your address, Cheryl?
34 Harborview Drive.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of current concerns as a former educator. I taught in the public schools and not in Falmouth for many, many years. I'm retired now, but I'm just concerned. There's no lighting on that street at all. For them to walk to school, I don't believe there's a school that's close enough for them to walk to. And for them to catch a bus, it's going to be very dark on that road early in the morning when they leave to school and possibly when they come back. So that's a huge concern of mine for safety for the children that are going to be, I'm assuming, living in these houses. Because there's no school that I am aware of that's within walking distance. And for them to
Understood.
walk up to Acapesket or even to Carroll is a ways for a small child.
All right. Anything else?
Well, I also, I agree a lot with, Kathleen, Mayer, and Bernard, who live behind me, because I took a walk the other day and I saw the posts up and I was really concerned that the posts were already up. It was like she said, it was putting the cart before the horse. And you said you've already seen, how many here? Could you just show hands of who's been down there to see the stakes? Raise your hand if you've seen the stakes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What's your opinion on the proximity of those stakes to her house?
I don't know if we're going to provide any comment about the stakes at this time,
Oh,
but
I didn't think so. Okay.
yeah, but it is part of our requirements on the board. We require those stakes so we can go out and see the proximity, especially with these projects since they're asking for waivers and, lot coverage, the side yard setbacks and things of that nature. So,
Okay. And also about the schooling and the children, do you have any response to that, or I'm just concerned about that?
I don't have anything myself, but we can always ask Attorney Moynihan if that was your intention to ask Attorney Moynihan that.
Well, anybody could respond to that.
Sure. Attorney Moynihan, I think she brought up some issues about the lighting and maybe safety issues with the kids and walking to the bus.
Well, I'm not really entirely clear what she was saying, that the property was not within walking distance of a school. So what does that mean? People won't be walking to school, or?
No, but if they have to take a school bus, the school bus would not be able to access that road. It's so narrow. So the children would have to walk quite a distance to get to a bus stop.
So what are the children doing now?
I don't know.
So
that I'm not aware of.
All right. So we'll look into that a little bit, but obviously some of these issues, we're going to have to respond in writing, as well as the issue about the proximity of the house on number 51. I mean, I am looking at Harbor View and Veeder Drive, and it looks like a lot of those houses are 10 or 12 feet from the lot lines as well. So I'll supply some comparable information to the board on the proximity of 51 to what's being proposed on this site, and compare it to Miss Donahue's property, perhaps, or her neighborhood, where we have similar proximities there, as well as Carol Ann.
Okay, thank you.
Ms.
Chairman,
go
yes.
right ahead.
Sure. Cheryl had mentioned, someone in our meeting, I believe, had mentioned the school issue. And first of all, it's maybe a quarter of a mile to Acapesket Road, where I'm assuming they would pick up a bus. And I don't know about you guys, but I walked a hell of a lot further to school when I was a kid. Not uphill in the snow, but I don't think, I'm very familiar with the property, and I don't see how it's a hardship and there's not much traffic, not much traffic to Acapesket. So I really don't think that's going to be an issue.
Well, I realize there's not a lot of traffic. I'm just worried about lighting and, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. I know there's a set of twins that live in the street. They're 3. I'm just concerned, just being a former educator, I'm just concerned about the safety of the children, because there will obviously be children living in these houses.
Well, no, not obviously. I mean, it's for any age. Personally, I would like that. But I think that, first of all, nowadays, what kid walks the bus stop by themselves anyway, right? But I'm just saying that it's not very far to the bus stop. And
and there's also no sidewalks, which is
That's correct. There are
Understood.
no sidewalks, and there haven't been in 100 years there. So,
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we'll respond to some of these things in
Yeah.
writing for you. Okay, obviously.
Appreciated,
Thank you.
Attorney
Yeah.
Moynihan. Cheryl,
Okay.
thank you for your comments tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, not seeing anyone else for public comment, so back to the board. Any sort of follow-up questions for the board at this time? I know obviously we're looking at a continuance. Attorney Moynihan has indicated she will address a lot of the comments that were brought up tonight through
Chairman, I have one
testimony
for
and on the record.
Ms. Bissonnette.
Go ahead, Scott. And Mary, I saw you. We'll get to you after, Scott.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, with all the intent of the 40Bs being in close proximity and walking distance to amenities, could you explain where the amenities are and how this
sure.
align with the housing plan?
Sure. First of all, Scott, there are different types of affordable housing. Okay, there are different people. The people that will be living in these homes. So they're going to be 80% and 100% of area median income, which means they have cars, most likely. So I think when we're talking about some affordable housing, for people at lower percentages of AMI, like 30 to 60%, I think that is when people are concerned that they're near public transportation. Okay. So, Acapesket Road is right there. And then 28 is a mile from there. I've clocked it myself.
The only reason I asked that is because in the presentation,
yes,
that's not discussed. That affordable housing is this way for this project and this way.
I understand. It's kind of a sensitive issue, I think. So that's why it's a very sensitive issue, right? So, but what I'm telling you is that the people that these people at 80 to 100% of area median income are those people that we need to fill, lots of jobs in this community. Why couldn't we hire firefighters? They can't afford to live, right?
I'm having a hard time figuring how it fits into the criteria of the housing plan.
Right.
When we can dissect it to make it more convenient for its proximity to where things are and aren't.
So I really don't think it's any different than the other people on the street as far as services go. How far is a grocery store?
Except for the fact that we're making all kind of concessions because it's a 40B.
All kinds of
can't have it both ways. I mean, they're 80%.
Right.
And they all have cars. So it doesn't, when we're considering this, look at the housing plan and the needs of affordable housing, we look at other things as well.
Yes, but what I'm saying to you is that they will have a car. I just helped. I'm the monitoring agent. Falmouth Housing Trust is for the new Locust Field estates, and those people work in our school systems. One of them that won the lottery works for the town and the DPW. These are the kinds of people that are going to be filling these houses, that are going to be part of the lottery. So they're people that we need to be here. They can't afford to live here because they don't make enough money.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a request. Laura, I wondered if you wouldn't mind sending your PowerPoint to Noreen so that we could take a second look at all of that information you provided.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Good idea, Mary. Thank you. Anything else from the board?
We have this covenant in the file.
Yeah, multiple times. Yeah.
It's attached to Attorney Freeman's opinion.
Oh, it is? Okay, well, I've got his letter.
Yeah.
But so I guess my question is, you said this was justified under 24179.1. Is that correct, Laura?
The covenant?
Yeah.
The access determination was issued under that section. That was the application.
Right. So there's 3 criteria, and I just was, can you clarify which was applied?
It was a subdivision way. It's under C, a way in existence prior to February 17th, 1956,
Okay,
which has been improved to the satisfaction of the planning board in respect to having adequate width, grades, and construction to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic in relation to the proposed use of the land, et cetera, and the installation of municipal services to serve the land and the buildings erected or to be erected thereon.
okay, thanks.
That's the access determination section.
Yeah, I just was wondering which of those three.
Yeah, it was C.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Attorney Moynihan one question?
Go ahead, Scott.
With reference to Mr. Freeman's letter, is his inaccuracy about the four houses reference the only inaccuracy in that statement?
His opinion was written in November of 2020 when the proposal was for four houses, which was the same as the site approval application to Mass Housing. So I would say that's accurate, that the reference to four houses is not correct. It's obviously been since changed to three houses, but I don't think it changes the substance of his legal analysis as far as the covenant goes.
So as far as you're concerned, that's the only inaccuracy on that statement?
Yes, I think his covenant his opinion is very well thought out. It makes complete sense to me. And it's certainly, in compliance with the 40B law and what the zoning bylaw says and what the planning board was supposed to be doing under the zoning bylaw. They weren't permitting affordable housing under the zoning bylaw. So
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. All right, anything else from the board? All right. Noreen, I know we're looking at a continuance. I'll defer to you in terms of a date, and Attorney Moynihan, just expectations for next meeting. I know there was a number of public comments via email that you were going to address. Some other issues regarding referrals. I'll work with Noreen to try to clarify exactly what happened with the town planner's comments. Am I missing anything else? Feel free to chime in, anyone.
Well, I would appreciate if the board could take a vote on the release of town council's opinion. With respect to you, Mr. Chairman, I've read the law as well, and I think it does specifically require that it be confidential communication. It's not confidential here, but in any event, for the record, I think it would be appropriate if the board would be willing to take a vote to either release it or not release it at this stage, so we can move forward on that.
Attorney Moynihan, since I did cite that advisory from the AG's office, would you care to read that over before we release or decide to vote? 'Cause I don't think you're in receipt of that, are you?
The advisory from the AG's office?
Correct. I cited to that earlier during the hearing.
I have not seen that. I did review the case law that you referenced in it, but no, I have not seen that.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out a way to save some time. I would be happy to have that, and then I can respond to it
Sure.
as well. But we may be drawing ourselves into another continuance here. As a result, I guess the question is really, is there any harm in releasing town council's opinion to the applicant, since we know other people have seen it? I mean, is it really that, critical to this case? Why not just let the applicant have it? What is the prejudice to the board, I guess is what I'm saying.
All right. Sorry. All right. So regarding town council's opinion, I'm standing by the advisory by the AG's office that I cited earlier. Does anyone else have any other sort of opinion?
If Attorney Moynihan wants to vote, I'm all for it.
And would you be voting to release it, or would you be voting?
I would attest that attorney-client privilege is what we each individuals make of it, and I would not be in support of opening up my attorney-client privilege in any. I think it sets a precedent.
All right. Let's see, Ed, how do you feel?
I agree with, I think we ought to hold off.
All right. Ken?
I actually disagree. I like to make things available, but I will go with whatever the preference of the majority of the board members is, obviously.
All right. And Bob?
Yeah, I'd vote not to release again on review of that AG's memo that was sent out.
All right. So, I don't know, would you want, Attorney Moynihan, would you like to put it to a vote, or, because we do have a majority deciding not to release it, do you want something formal?
I think I would like the opportunity to review the Attorney General's memorandum. So if you're willing to give that to me, or ask Noreen to email it to me, that would be helpful. Sure. Maybe I can look at it and have an opportunity to comment further on that before a vote is taken.
Let's do that. And Noreen, before we do vote to continue, since it is a 40B, we'll have a peer engineer. That's true?
So it's my understanding from town engineering that due to the size of the property and the proposal, that town engineering was willing to do the peer engineering on it.
They had said they didn't feel it was necessary, essentially, for peer review.
Understood.
And it's what was in the file.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just making sure that we won't be getting a peer engineer for anything else. So,
TJ, I think most of the issues here don't have to do so much with the details of the project itself as the number of homes on the site.
Right. I understand, but I know we do have our new regs.
So it did mention in the referral from engineering, they didn't think we needed a peer review. My only question to the administrator is, that means our engineering will do any review. Is that correct? Because previously they sent us something that said they won't do any reviews. We had to go outside to get somebody. So are they accepting the work?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. And that's what I was struggling to come up with right now. All right, so we are looking at a continuance. Noreen, do we have a date?
So I would propose June 10th, which is our new add-on date, and we will reserve that just for the 240Bs that night.
Sounds good. Would anyone like to make that motion then?
So I'd make a motion to continue to June 10th.
Second.
Moved.
All right, motion to continue this hearing to June 10th made by Bob, seconded by, I'll give it to Scott. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. James. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. And Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Hearing is continued to June 10th. Attorney Moynihan and Ms. Bissonnette, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I make a request? And I know how busy the board is, but I'm just hoping that maybe on June 10th, if there are technical aspects of the plans that after having been given 2 hours of information, the board has questions on, that they might email them to Ms. Stockman and we can answer those before June 10th. It might just help with the timing here. Again, I know everybody's busy, but being able to get that information to you before June 10th, rather than coming back to the hearing. And sometimes these questions come up after you've, really gotten into this project. So just a request, if that could be honored.
Sure, we can certainly try to do that for you, okay. Attorney Moynihan.
Thank you. We'd appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you. See you next time.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. All right. That wraps it up for our public hearings. Moving on to our open meeting items. We have voting the minutes for April 22nd, 2021.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the April 22nd, 2021 minutes that I read today.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, second by Scott. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
Thank you, Mary. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. James?
James Morse, aye.
Thank you, James. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. Passes unanimously. The minutes for April 22nd. Up next, we have review draft decision of application 13-21 Cove Cottage LLC, 24 Reed's Path, AKA 98 Sea Pit Road, East Falmouth, with a vote anticipated. Could someone please remind me who the voting members were on this one?
So, Mr. Chairman, I missed that meeting, so I'm not going to be on this, but if you need me to go over the decision, the conditions, I can always read them in.
Thank you, Bob. So the voting members were me, I think Ed, Ken, Scott, you were on it, right?
That's correct.
So did we leave it at just 4 since Bob was not available?
What was
I
it?
think
Yes.
What was that another case that night where the Mullen rule fell in for Bob? Or
well,
was
so Bob has to elect to actually exercise the Mullen rule by reviewing the record. And
I just remember at one.
Yeah,
and I haven't been able to review any of the videos yet, so I will do it for Brick Hill Road.
And 4.
All right. So it looks like the voting members on this would be myself, Ed, Ken, and Scott. I don't remember appointing a 5th member.
You didn't.
All right. Okay, so we've all had a chance to review it. Is there any other sort of revisions to be made? Great job, Noreen. All right, so if there's nothing, and Noreen, how have we been doing this? Reading the conditions into the record and then voting?
Let's see what we have here. I mean, the findings obviously are primarily a recitation of the various findings of the board. And then you have a pretty short list of conditions.
All right.
I think it's up to you. I think, certainly the conditions make sense. I don't know that you want to read all the findings in.
Just to stay consistent, Bob, can you read in the conditions?
All right, so these are the conditions. Condition 1, Lot 219, 24 Reed Path, 98 Sea Pit Road shall be substantially as shown on the revised plans, which is plan of land prepared for Cove Cottage LLC and 108 Sea Pit Road LLC in Falmouth, Mass, prepared by Holmes and McGrath, Inc., 205 Worcester Court, Suite 4A, Falmouth, Mass, revision dated 4/13/21. An exhibit plan, Lot 219, lot coverage by structures prepared for Cove Cottage LLC and 108 Seaport Road LLC, prepared by Holmes and McGrath, Inc., 205 Worcester Court, Suite 4A, Falmouth, Mass. Revision date 1/11/21. 2, the location of the septic system component shall be confirmed on the 32 Nichols Road parcel, now identified as Lot 220. Any portion of the septic system located within 10 feet of the parking area shall be landscaped to ensure that no vehicles park on the septic system. Where parking on this lot also currently supports Lot 219, 24 Reed Path / 98 Seaport Road, the premises. 3, the applicant shall contact town engineering regarding the address correction for Lot 219 to be 98 Seapit Road and to ensure the proper signage is posted to access the premises. 4, in the event that a driveway is constructed from Seapit Road into the premises, a permit would be required from the DPW Engineering Division. 5, the applicant shall comply with requirements of the Water Division, Board of Health, Planning Board, and any other town department or board having jurisdiction over proposed work. 6, under Section 17 of Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, the requirement to record permit decisions with the registry is suspended for as long as the registry is closed and subject to rules and procedures restricting public in-person access. However, such recording will still be required upon the full reopening of the registry with a copy provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Barnstable County Registry of Deeds continues to accept filings by postal mail during this period, and permit holders are requested to file for recording through this method to the extent possible. 7, any deviation, no matter how minor, from plans submitted and approved by this board shall be submitted to the board for approval prior to implementation of said change. The zoning administrator may make a determination as to whether the changes are minor in nature and can be approved administratively, or whether they will require a hearing for an amendment. Changes made prior to any approval may be subject to a full hearing and are at the risk that the zoning board of appeals may deny the request. 8, this special permit shall lapse 3 years from the date of which this decision is filed in the town clerk's office. If a substantial use of the special permit has not sooner commenced except for good cause shown, as determined by the zoning board of appeals.
Second.
So I just had a question and I wasn't there, so I just don't know if this is it. So on that number 2, where you're identifying the septic system location, was there anything regarding the type of system if you are parking on it?
Well, there was a discussion about whether there was H20 and the applicant didn't know because it's been in there a while. So I guess.
And I asked for some verification, remember, Ken?
I remember. So the way we got around that was to say that they need to verify where it is or put landscaping down so they can't drive over it.
So is that what that actually says?
That's what it says. And I think it does say that.
Yes, so you had a plan that showed the approximate location of the septic system. And so what was the board determined was that the applicant would be required to actually locate the septic components. And that based on that location, ensure that they're properly protected from being parked upon.
And Bob, when we looked at the plan, they designated parking spots on that gravel area, and actually there wasn't one right where the septic components were shown, but it was also shown to be part of the graveled area, so there was nothing keeping people from driving over it. So I think this was sort of an attempt to get at that.
Okay.
All right.
Is that right, Scott? That your recollection?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's as close as we could get to it and protect it.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right.
And quite obviously, they had been driving on it for years already, so.
Right, that's true.
We try. All right. So everything was read in, Bob?
Yeah, that's all the conditions.
Fantastic. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Motion to approve made by Scott, second by Ed. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. Passes unanimously. All right. Board discussion. Is there anything? All right. Seeing nothing. Board updates? Any updates?
Can we double back for 2 seconds? On
Sure,
that?
Scott.
I would implore you as our chairman to investigate what was discussed tonight, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, I did. Definitely will. Definitely will.
Right. And I won't go any further than that because I don't think we have to, but we need to.
Right.
Please.
Yep. Everything was discussed during that hearing, so we'll leave
Right.
it at that hearing, and
Thank you.
I will work with Noreen on that. All right. Anything else for board updates? No board updates. Future agenda items.
Any word on when we're coming back to full capacity in real time?
You know, I wish I could offer you a new answer to your question.
So you're gonna give me the same old sneaker answer, right?
Sorry, yes.
Okay. I just miss you guys, that's all.
I miss you too, Scott. I'm getting my
Yeah, I
second
know.
shot tomorrow, so I'm ready
I
to meet
know.
people in person.
Nice.
I got mine this week. Stand by for the Pfizer second shot.
I'm
Yep.
done.
That'll be me tomorrow.
I got all mine. In fact, I actually went on an airplane this week.
Really?
Yeah, is that how you got to Chicago, Ken?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Excellent. I was on the steamship yesterday. I went to Martha's Vineyard for a mediation. That was fun. Live and in person.
Fully masked.
Yes, absolutely.
How does that
Coming
work?
slowly but surely.
How does that work on the boat?
It's a big boat.
But there's a lot of new guidelines today, so things seem to be opening up.
Yes, sir.
It's exciting.
We can all go to Ken's bar.
That's
pretty
right.
soon.
We'll see you there.
You know, it's possible to go to the bar after the Zoom.
Well, that's true too.
Oh, look, we have another party.
Theodore says hi.
Oh,
I pictured him smaller.
He's a big boy. He's a Maine Coon. He is a big boy.
And computer literate.
He is, yeah. Actually, he's upset right now because he sleeps in this chair at night, so it's just about bedtime for him.
and
so.
he wants the mouse.
Right.
All right.
All right. Look at that. 10:28. Ken, that was a good call going to 10:30.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm impressed you're keeping track that well of the time.
All right. Next meeting is May 20th. See everyone then.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
Good night.